Morning, everyone. Julius Kleinans, Executive Manager, Local Government at AGSA. Thank you for the invitation.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Kulile Ntiki. I represent the Public Protector.
On my extreme left, you start with here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Ali Musina, the Chairperson of Municipal Public Accounts Committee in Rand West City Local Municipality. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rushka Narayan from the Auditor General. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa McCarthy, the Deputy Business Unit Leader from the Auditor General's office in our Johannesburg office. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Hector Bukhopani, City of Ekurhuleni, MPACS member.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, all honorable members and stakeholders. My name is Manda Sydney, and I'm representing the Office of the Public Service Commission. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members. My name is Chaf Damhlongo. I'm the acting DDG Financial Governance in Gauteng Provincial Treasury. I'm representing Gauteng Provincial Treasury in this meeting. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable colleagues. My name is Councillor Mokhele, the Chairperson of MPACS in Enfuleni. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Kuzwe Tsotetsi, MPACS member at Rand West City, local municipality.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Kodiwe Patulisi, MPACS member from West City municipality.
Assalamu alaikum. Municipal.
Good day, everyone. My name is Minki Musina, MPACS Office Support Staff in Rand West City.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Philip Mufukeng. I'm an MPACS member from Rand West City Local Municipality.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Temba Lata, the support staff at Rand West City Local Municipality. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Salome Ngwane, researcher intern at the City of Ekurhuleni.
Morning, everyone. My name is Vos Lamini, admin of MPACS Ekurhuleni.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Isaac Mogashwa. I'm the Secretary to Council, City of Tshwane, also overseeing Section 79 and 79A committees. Thank you.
Is it on? Good morning, everyone. My name is Tawanda Kaseke from Corruption Watch. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Tepo Masela, MPACS researcher in the City of Tshwane.
Good morning, colleagues. It's Councillor Esther Masuku, MPACS member, City of Tshwane.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Telo Mzaiya, admin at City of Tshwane.
Morning, Chair, and morning, everyone. I'm Smith Miageni, the MPACS Chair, Liseri Local Municipality.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sbongile Makubo, MPACS Coordinator in Liseri Local Municipality.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and colleagues. My name is Nontantla Dlamini from Liseri Local Municipality, supporting staff. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to the chair. My name is Chrissy Dube, and I represent Good Governance Africa. I'm the head of Governance Insights and Analytics.
Morning, colleagues. My name is Kugan Pillay, also from Corruption Watch. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Queen Nani Mashamaite, Acting Director, Legal Services within Office of the Speaker, basically providing legal services and advice to all Section 79 committees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are all welcome. We'll now proceed with our presentations. Okay. Start with the Auditor General.
Chair, good morning once again, and thank you for the opportunity, giving the AG an opportunity to share with you today on the topic of strengthening consequence management under the amended Public Audit Act. Good morning to the honourable members, the honourable councillors and officials, and all those in attendance, all protocol observed. Just to share the AG's mission, which we usually do share as we present, just to emphasize our mission and our vision. And what I want to highlight here is just to strengthen the country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through our auditing, thereby building public confidence. Chair, we usually reflect on our culture shift strategy and our strategic aspiration with regards to that. And some may have seen this slide. I think what I really want to lift up from the slide, and for those that haven't also been privy to this particular slide and information, is as the AG and part of our culture shift strategy, we do aspire to have a stronger, more direct and consistent impact on improving the lived reality of South Africans through the audits that we do. Also by sustainably and efficiently shifting public sector culture through insight, influence and enforcement. So ultimately we do strive to share the insights we've gathered from our external audits so that we can influence other role players and empower them to fulfill their roles with our audit insights. However, where our influence through insights don't necessarily always achieve the objective outcome, we do then have powers to enforce, and that means using the material irregularity process that's been included in our Public Audit Act. From a consequence management point of view, we try and, in terms of our culture shift strategy, what we ultimately want to achieve is to advocate for a culture towards institutional integrity, performance, transparency and accountability within the environments of both provincial and local government. I think what I really want to emphasize from a consequence management point of view, in line with these 4 quadrants, is really institutional integrity, to implement and maintain institutionalized controls to ensure leadership and officials behave ethically, comply with legislation and act in the best interests of the institution, avoiding conflicts of interest. And then accountability, a culture where there is responsiveness to the public, to oversight and other stakeholders through reporting and providing answers on fulfilling mandated responsibilities, actions taken and decisions made to ensure swift consequences for transgressions and poor performance. That is the type of culture we aspire to through our culture shift strategy in the environments of the different auditees that we audit. There is the accountability ecosystem, and ultimately through our strategy, we also want to assist in terms of activating the accountability ecosystem, both on the PFMA side and MFMA side. And how this links up to consequence management, it basically includes all role players in this particular graphic and in the accountability ecosystem, including officials, senior management, governance structures, assurance providers, and oversight committees. And ultimately, looking at the officials within the various environments, the various departments, entities, and municipalities, you've got an accounting officer and accounting authority who needs to hold senior management accountable and take consequence management when things are not done as they should and transgressions are confirmed, and obviously take them through a process of holding them accountable. Where the accounting officer is not doing what they should be doing, there is an executive authority who then needs to hold the accounting officer or authority accountable and implement consequence management. And for the executive authority needs to be held accountable by the various oversight committees, talking to MPACS, portfolio committees, Scopa. And I think ultimately you also have your coordinating institutions who have a coordinating role and function to ensure that the departments, entities, and municipalities function in the way that they're supposed to, and where support is supposed to be provided or intervention is needed, that needs to come through on a timely manner. And that all fits into a proper consequence management process to hold officials accountable. So if we get if we activate the accountability ecosystem and all role players do what they're supposed to do in terms of the roles and mandates that they've been given, the necessary consequence management will then be effective where needs be, once a process has been undertaken to confirm where someone needs to be held accountable. This is just a brief overview. Next slide, please. This is just a summarized overview of the audit outcomes for the last cycle, 23-24, and, well, 23-24 for both the PFMA and MFMA, also reflecting on the beginning of the administration term to the end of the administration term. And you can see what I really want to focus on here for both the PFMA and the MFMA. So the PFMA is on the top. You can see that there's 65% of clean audits at the end of 23-24, 32% sitting in the yellow area, which is your unqualified with findings, and then one with a disclaimer, which is the pink. And for the MFMA, there's 21% of clean audits within Gauteng, 66% sitting in the unqualified with material findings, and 13% in the qualified space. My intention is not to obviously go through the detail of who sits where, but ultimately just emphasize that for the unqualified with findings category, which is your yellow, obviously this means that they had material findings on compliance and performance information, or either one of them. And what we find obviously is a big hindrance to improving audit outcomes, particularly for these audits that sit within this category, is non-compliance. And we often find also that these are recurring non-compliance findings happening within these environments, which indicates that transgressions are repeating themselves. What we often also find is going into these environments, you don't find that people have necessarily changed in those positions, which is an indication that consequence management is not being implemented timelessly to hold officials accountable if it is concluded that someone needs to be held accountable. So we ultimately do emphasize that consequence management practices needs to be strengthened within environments. In 2019, and I think very similarly, just still on the slide, for those that still sit in your qualified space and disclaimer space, it indicates that there's also recurring misstatements on the financial statements, which also talks to, sometimes it might not be a transgression in the sense of someone intentionally did not comply with legislation, but sometimes one needs to assess whether someone technically should have, effected the right adjustments on financial statements, and why that person did not. So did they perform according to what they've agreed on in terms of their performance agreements, for example, a chief financial officer? And if not, are they being held accountable in line with the performance agreements that have been signed? And that's another example of consequence management that should be effected in the auditee environments. The next slide. So, as many may know, in 2019, the AG was granted additional powers with regards to the material irregularity process. And what this process basically allows for the AG to do is for the AG to issue a material irregularity if non-compliances has indeed resulted in financial losses, fraud, or even harm to the public or harm to the specific institution. It then allows the AG to issue a material irregularity to the accounting officer. And the reason why it's issued to the accounting officer, because many of these, or basically irregularities, need to be identified by an accounting officer. In line with the PFMA and MFMA, it is their responsibilities. But what we obviously found was accounting officers were not necessarily doing this. And that is why the AG was given this powers to ensure and almost enforce the accounting officers to do what they're supposed to do. The accounting officer would then commit to certain actions, and they need to implement those actions by a certain timeline. And if it's not implemented, the AG can then issue specific recommendations and follow a remedial process. And at the end of the process, if indeed recommendations are not even implemented, there is the certificate of debt process to the accounting officer. So, aligned with our culture shift strategy, consequence management is a key aspect of our enforcement pillar. It's to drive consequence management and see accountability being taken. We also use our directly or indirectly recover resources lost to the state and taxpayers and ensure the application of consequences for wrongdoing. Our audit recommendations encourage our auditees to recover losses and prevent further losses. And where we've notified swift action, we can use remedial action and referral powers and issue a certificate of debt. Investigations and disciplinary processes also enable consequence management, but we do find that these are costly and can take a long time to complete. So it is advisable always for strong preventative and detective controls to remain the best investment for government, and that's what we basically advocate for. We also see through our material irregularity process, the accounting officer trying to improve controls within the environment as part of their actions. Because ultimately one wants to see the actions that have been taken being a sustainable action for the longer term. And through the MIs, material irregularities that we have issued for both the PFMA and MFMA since 2019 to date, within the Gauteng province, we have seen financial losses recovered, losses in the process of recovery, and also financial losses prevented. For the PFMA in total, this amounted to 713 million, as you can see. And for the MFMA, 740 million. So just to emphasize, the 713 million is split between losses recovered of 1.9 million for the PFMA, losses in the process of recovery, 504 million, and financial losses prevented. So this is to avoid recurrence of the same irregularity, to prevent further loss, and this amounted to 207 million. Similarly, for the MFMA, 401 million for financial losses recovered, 134 million financial losses in the process of recovery, and 204 million financial losses prevented. And for us, basically, this also then contributes to effective consequence management, because what we've also seen is investigations being implemented, recommendations being implemented, and also disciplinary processes taking place in certain departments and municipalities. I won't necessarily go through the specific slide, but this is what I've also mentioned earlier on from our culture strategy objective, the PATI framework. It's a tool for assessing auditing progress, and as I indicated, accountability and institutional integrity is key for consequence management in this regard. This is also an overall overview of our material irregularities issued. For the PFMA, we've issued 34 material irregularities, 2 departments. Of the 34 that has been issued, 15 has been resolved. And then for the MFMA, we've issued 54 material irregularities, and of those, 33 have been resolved. The remaining are in appropriate action. Some have recently been notified from the recent MFMA that was closed off. And in some cases, for the 3 on the MFMA side, we are waiting responses from the accounting officers in terms of the more recent material irregularities that have been issued. This picture here, then the next slide. The picture here summarizes material findings on compliance, and as I indicated earlier, this is a big hindrance to auditors improving their audit outcomes, are the non-compliance findings that often find themselves in audit reports. There's a picture for the PFMA and MFMA. Without necessarily going through it, obviously both pictures indicate that over time, so over the beginning of the administration term, to where we are now, there has been an improvement in terms of the number of material findings that have been identified. But what it doesn't take away, and if you look at the graphics at the bottom, I think I want to really emphasize the procurement and contract management. That still remains an issue for both PFMA and MFMA, where we are still seeing non-compliance with SEM regulations. And I think the unfortunate part with this one is that it almost seems as it's either intentional or just not implementing the regulations as it should be implemented. And as I indicated earlier on, you often don't find that people have been moved out of the office if, because of transgressions. You find that it is the same people within office. I think prevention of unauthorized, irregular, and wasteful and fruitful expenditure, you can see for the PFMA it's at 24%, but more for the MFMA, that one sits at 71%. And this is just where irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful, and in some cases unauthorized, hasn't been prevented as required by the PFMA. And we all know that links to expenditure management and also compliance to supply chain management regulations that usually result in irregular expenditure. And then, like I said, procurement still remains an area of concern for the PFMA and the MFMA, the PFMA and the MFMA. So this just basically confirms that consequence management is not happening the way it should, and usually when we do close off, we usually close off with better, improved accountability by all role players that needs to be strengthened to ensure that this picture continuously improves, but also to drive improved audit outcomes, but ultimately still drive a good service delivery on the ground, because sometimes some of these non-compliances, especially in terms of the procurement space, sometimes impacts, or in a lot of the time it impacts your service delivery in terms of what's been planned and committed versus what's actually delivered on the ground. So the root causes underpinning failures of governance and accountability. Number one, basic controls are not always implemented. That talks to ineffective resource management, lack of adequate standardized daily, monthly, and year-end processes and controls, lack of timely implementation of proper record-keeping measures, lack of institutionalized financial and performance management controls. Number two, governance failures. Observations are poor planning and budgeting, as well as lack of setting quality indicators and targets that are measurable and aligned to the auditor's mandates. Inadequate intergovernmental planning, coordination, and support. Particularly on the MFMA side, it is a message that that's going out to say one needs to, or the province needs to strengthen intergovernmental planning, coordination and support, not ignoring the, some of the platforms that do exist. Internal audits and audit committees not always having the required impact. And I think with regards to that point also is management, I think when management also fails in this regard is management not always implementing recommendations from internal audit units and audit committees. And then lack of implementation of oversight responsibility by holding senior management and even the executive accountable for implementation of preventative controls relating to financial performance and compliance with laws and regulations. And then 3 is the lack of accountability and consequence. Inadequate implementation of action plans to prevent recurring instances of non-compliance. And I think it really speaks to the points I mentioned earlier in terms of doing something about transgressions. So the risk, lack of accountability and consequences on the PFMA side. So what we are still seeing, this is a picture of your unauthorized, irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. This obviously is one of the key indicators to almost conclude whether consequence management is being implemented, because the Act requires that when irregular expenditure has been incurred or even fruitless and wasteful expenditure and unauthorized, there needs to be a process that needs to be implemented to determine, so an investigation to determine if anyone needs to be held accountable, and if so, have actions been taken against those officials. So you can see for the PFMA with a closing balance, so I won't necessarily focus on the incurred for the year, but rather the closing balance, because that's really where the effectiveness of consequence management comes into play. The closing balance for irregular expenditure is 45 billion, and of that, 40 billion has not been dealt with, and that's the circle in the red in the middle. And similarly for fruitless and wasteful expenditure, with a balance of 749 million, there's 22% that has not been dealt with. So I think basically from this picture you can see that to some extent there has been processes of investigation and a Treasury then, or applying to Treasury for the condonation process, and Treasury making an assessment whether condonation can be done or not. What concerns us as the AG is obviously what's left in the closing balance, and we often find that timeless investigations are not being done. In some cases, investigations are not started. In other cases, investigations are started, but it's taking too long to complete. And obviously, that creates different challenges for the departments or entities. Similarly, for the MFMA, so this picture starts with irregular expenditure on the far left, and then unauthorized expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And in the MFMA space, all three, the municipalities and entities are affected by all three. Unlike with the PFMA, there was no unauthorized expenditure. But again, the emphasis for irregular expenditure closing with 36 billion for irregular. You can see that 73% has not been dealt with. And the number of the unauthorized expenditure, a majority of it has been dealt with, which is the 70%, but you can see that there's still 28%. So obviously, yeah, our focus is more your irregular expenditure and the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which is 82% not dealt with. In terms of our material irregularity process, you do find that for some of these instances of irregular expenditure, and mainly fruitless and wasteful expenditure, because that's where losses have been incurred, is your fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We have also raised material irregularities in this regard, and obviously for the accounting officer to recover these funds, and where it can't be recovered, to improve internal controls within the environment, or for officials to go through disciplinary processes. So to move to conclusion of this presentation, what must be done to improve public accountability? At accounting officer level, support and derive full value from internal audit units and audit committees as governance structures. Also implement professionalization initiatives where need arises. Strengthen financial and performance management disciplines. Strengthen preventative controls and deal with material irregularities with required seriousness. At internal audit level, they need to play a bigger role to ensure that quality of performance reports improves and that project reports are promptly reviewed. Consistently monitor implementation of action plans and ensure adequate capacitation of internal audit unit. At the audit committee level, they need to interrogate planning documents and quarterly performance reports with the necessary vigor. Properly monitor that internal controls are adhered to, risks are managed and outcomes are achieved. Ensure follow-up on internal audit findings and monitor the accounting officer's initiatives aimed at responding to material irregularities. The executive authority or mayor needs to continue to bring about improvements in audit outcomes by becoming more actively involved in governance matters, implement consequences for non-performance and transgressions, insist on progress updates to ensure accounting officers are resolving material irregularities, and perform quarterly performance monitoring. Municipal councils needs to implement consequence for non-performance and transgressions, support resolution of material irregularities by accounting officers, instill financial discipline, insist on good quality and credible service delivery plans and performance reports, expedite the process of appointing new municipal managers where indeed there is a need for that, depending on the consequence management processes that have been implemented. Also to regularly monitor progress made against plans to reduce any reliance on or high reliance on consultants, and then strengthen structures such as disciplinary boards and MPACS to effectively implement the consequence management process. And then lastly, for legislatures and even the subcommittees, so oversight structures to assess strategic and performance plans with necessary vigor and interrogate quarterly performance reports, which is ultimately at portfolio committee level, also to strengthen monitoring processes to hold auditors accountable, which also would be applicable to Scopa. So ultimately for us, as I indicated earlier on, we want to do our audits, get the necessary insights and try to influence without enforcing. Because in terms of having a good culture, there needs to be accounting, we're trying to encourage a culture of, or a culture where accounting officers do what they're supposed to do, and they're proactive in doing so. So the enforcement pillar, which is the material irregularity process, is really a reactive process in terms of trying to get accounting officers to do what they're supposed to do. But we are looking for more proactiveness in environments to ensure that material irregularities don't have to be issued, but rather that the accounting officer has done everything on their side in terms of their roles and responsibilities. Chair, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much from the Auditor General. I'm aware of the fact that the colleagues at the back here have a bit of a problem to be able to look at the slides. Those screens are a bit far, but it's going to take about 10 minutes for them to move it, closer to you, and also for myself as well, quite frankly. But can I ask you to just bear with us? Let us do the next presentation, and then during that question and answer time, we'd be able to then get them to move those screens closer. It will take about 10 minutes, and we need to catch up on some time. Okay. Thank you so much. The next presentation will be from the Public Protector. Sorry, from? Oh, sorry. I'm a bit advanced on my program. Who's the next one? Gauteng Treasury, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good morning to you, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, councillors, and all the colleagues. While they are loading the presentation, yes, yeah, that's a presentation. Sometimes making a presentation after AG is either it makes your work difficult or easy. I hope it's the latter, Chairperson. So what we are talking about from Provincial Treasury is strengthening financial governance through collaboration. So looking at this, just few matters that I'm going to be presenting on. Mine is going to be shorter because AG have covered most of the items that are here. The emphasis is on the next slide, where I'm indicating that as a Provincial Treasury, on slide number 4, I'm indicating that it is our responsibility to ensure that departments, trading entities within government or within GPG, they comply with PFMA, Treasury regulations, as well as applicable accounting standards that they report in when we're talking about financial governance. We do that by ensuring that we monitor and enforce the National Treasury guidelines in terms of the financial reporting that has been provided. So all of them are standard. We need to ensure that as Provincial Treasury, all the departments and entities, they report in that manner, as well as providing guidance and as well as interpretation of the accounting standards. So for the departments, they are using the modified case standard and then GRAB for the entities. So we need to ensure that those things are happening, as well as to ensure accurate and timely reporting on finances. So the budget have been passed, they execute whatever they execute, but from our side, we need to ensure that that money is properly accounted for, and then AG, when they come and they confirm whether there's fair representation of the money that is being given to the department. So that is our responsibility as well as Provincial Treasurer to ensure that that happens. But looking at that, we are not taking the responsibility of the accounting officers as indicated in Section 38 of the PFMA, that they must ensure that there are effective processes within each and every department as well as entities to ensure that there is compliance in terms of financial governance. So those are the areas that we need to be aware of, that the accounting officer still needs to remain responsible and accountable to ensure that there is proper governance. In slide number 5, we're indicating that one of the areas that we do at Provincial Treasury in ensuring the strengthening of financial governance, we need to be providing support. We need to ensure that there's proper reporting and accountability. So Section 40 of the PFMA requires us as a Provincial Treasury to assist the departments. And some of the things that we do continuously year in, year out is technical support that we provide to the departments as far as accounting and reporting is concerned. We provide as well training in terms of the applicable accounting practices and standards, as well as if there is a change or an update in the accounting standards. So we are working with the Accounting Standard Board as well to ensure that any changes, we take all the accounting officers as well as people that prepare financial statements through that process to understand what could be the change in the reporting. We also review on a monthly basis what has worked well in the provincial government is that we have introduced the interim financial statements for very long time now. So in those interim financial statements, on a quarterly basis, they are submitted to Provincial Treasury. We have a team in Provincial Treasury in accounting services where we review the accounting as well as the financial statements on a quarterly basis, and we give the accounting officers that assurance whether the financial statements have been properly prepared. And then once that has been reviewed, then they go to the oversight body, that is the audit committee, to look at them. So we provide that second level of assurance from Provincial Treasury. So that has worked well to pick errors before it goes to external bodies. Over and above that, we do monthly reviews through the Section 40 reports. So those are the ones that we just supporting the departments, but they're not going to oversight bodies. So on a monthly basis, we do those interim reviews, but on quarterly basis, those are the ones that goes to even audit committee. So that have reduced a lot of material misstatements because there is that level of review. I know at the municipality level, especially in the provincial government, that process has started as well. I think the results of the previous cycle indicates that when you have interim financial statements being reviewed is better than to wait towards the year end. So those are the things that we are doing in terms of supporting the departments. In slide number, the following slide, which should be 6, in terms of providing the assurance as well, once the audit has been done, as AG have indicated, the audit services within GPG, they will make follow-ups on a continuous basis to ensure that the departments are implementing, to provide that assurance to the audit committee as well. Over and above that, from financial governance, the unit that I'm representing, the findings that are financial related, we track those on a monthly basis as part of our Section 40 reviews, just to look at whether the financial findings are being addressed by the departments. Over and above that, we have, where the departments have been identified as high-risk departments, we continuously monitor those and we conduct site visits to assist them with verification as well correct allocation of the work in process amounts to ensure that they are properly categorized and then they are moving correctly, as well as assist them in terms of the movable and immovable assets declaration in their books. So those are some of the things that we are doing. The next slide, I will not dwell on it, just to show you that we have implemented a model like this that include a combined assurance with all the stakeholders. The AG is at the level 3 there of assurance, so that's where all our independent providers are. So that level that I mentioned earlier on, to say management will review their own financial statements, then they'll submit to Provincial Treasury, will do that second level of assurance, then it goes to the third level of assurance. AG only comes at the end, but audit committees on a quarterly basis, they will look at those. So that level of assurance provides an early warning as well if there are any problems that are picked up, so that they can be rectified before year end. Members, in the next slide is just a detailed one to indicate that what is happening in the combined assurance space, where we are working together with management, internal audit, risk management, as well as AG, just to deal with issues of combined assurance in terms of financial governance. As part of the combined assurance framework as well, we have ensured that the financial reporting remain a standard item in all management meetings of the department. So they need to report on that, on how they are doing, how are they spending, as well as the risk committees that they have. They need to take those reports too. I'm privy to those meetings, as I almost sit in all as a standing member in the risk committee meetings, so that they can look at financial reporting as well in those before they can go even to audit committees. In short, in this slide, we do have an audit committee in the province. We have a cluster audit committee, so we've got 15 independent audit committee members that are appointed in a cycle of 3 years. And then we have divided them into 5 clusters. So one cluster will have 3 members, one being the chairperson. So those are the ones that are holding management to account in terms of financial governance. Some of the things that we ensured that they are forming part of the agenda, as AG have mentioned there, the issue of irregular expenditure, unauthorized expenditure, fruitless expenditure, and expenditure management. Those are standard items where the accounting officer, when they present their reports in the audit committee members, they need to indicate that in this quarter, are there any of those that happened? Or are there any reduction in terms of the irregular expenditure? So those are some of the things that they are looking at. Then, of course, the audit process will unfold and indicate if there are any improvement. Let's go to slide number 10. I think the next slide is duplicated. Okay. So, Chair, the areas that we're saying it may need further attention and further improvement, not to repeat what the AG said. So those are the areas, and most of them, they are coming from the assurance that I'm talking about, from the 3rd level of assurance. So this is independent assurance that is coming from AG. So I took this from the AG reports that are issued to all the 15 departments and 19 entities in the province. So non-compliance to expenditure management is still a problem. Supply chain, in terms of compliance with those and relevant regulations, they are still a problem that we need to be dealing with. I think Melissa as well did indicate the issue of irregular expenditure. We're saying that one of the things that need to happen is to ensure that the accounting officers address these areas of non-compliance, because those are the ones that result into irregular expenditure. So those are the things that the accounting officers need to deal with. Not repeating what Melissa said as well, they need to ensure that that determination test to deal with investigation as well of irregular expenditure that has been identified need to happen timely, and the implementation of corrective measures to ensure that whatever has been identified through the investigation reports are implemented, because if that is not done, the irregular expenditure will never reduce, because the expenditure review committee, what they look at whether there was a determination test that was done, there was an investigation that was done, there was a report that was issued, and whether the accounting officer have implemented the recommendations of those reports. Then the irregular expenditure condonation committee will look at those and can be able to recommend those to be condoned. But if the determination test or investigation takes time, the implementation of consequence management as well as the recommendation from the investigations are not done, the irregular expenditure will never decrease. And indeed, Melissa is correct, 70% of them are old. And I'm talking about old on irregular expenditure. So they're dating back 3 years, 4 years back. So he's saying those are the quick wins, so to say, to look at them, to say, how do we deal with it? I know at National Treasury, they are looking at revision as well, on the determination framework for irregular expenditure, because one of the areas that are coming from the department is when they are indicating that in case the irregular expenditure is old, and the documents cannot be found, then what do you do in terms of that? But obviously the PFMA does give the accounting officer a way on how to deal with them. But those are some of the things. Contract management as well as procurement management is still a problem. I think that's coming direct as well from the AG report. And lastly, on this slide is the issue of, I think the Public Service Commission it's in pain explaining this on the issue of 30 days payment. So this is one of the areas that still needs improvement in the province. Mainly it's one department that we need to be focusing on, but that one department is the one that makes us not to be complying at that, so that the focus should be going to that area that I think department is looking at this. Chairperson, this is the last slide in terms of indicating the improvements that have been achieved through these processes of combined assurance. We have seen the improvements in terms of the accountability as well as financial reporting within GPG department as well as entities, the reduction as well of material misstatements that have been registered, as well as timely submission of annual financial statements. So we have never missed a deadline in terms of submitting because we are dealing with this at a provincial treasury level. So those are the things that I think the committee needs to note in terms of the achievement, but most importantly, the areas that we still need to work on, because for us to improve in financial governance of the entities as well as the departments, if those areas are not addressed, we will be sitting with a problem. We don't want to have repeat findings from AG, because that will tell you that our controls are not as effective as they should be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so very much for that presentation. We are now going to open for questions and comments. But in the meantime, could I please ask the support staff to please move those screens for us, please, those two small screens? Or are you going to put up others? Yeah, whilst we're busy with this, questions and so on, please do the necessary, okay? Thank you so much. The floor is open. Member Fuchs, Member Kaba, and
Chair,
okay,
thank you.
Okay.
Chair, it's clear from these first two presentations that we have quite a serious issue in terms of the approach from our accounting officers in various departments to deal, for example, with irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I mean, we heard from the AG that our closing balance on irregular expenditures at the end of last year was something like 45 billion rand. Now, I mean, to me, that's really shocking. What's even more shocking is the fact that the vast majority of that has not even been looked at in terms of the process that's required via irregular expenditure frameworks, legislation, and regulations. The question is, what is being done and what can be done about that particular issue? You know, I often wonder about the relationship between the AG and the client, which is government in this case, at the coalface. I mean, what the AG does is they audit, they raise concerns, and at the end of the day, there's an expectation that the client will respond and deal with these matters, and they don't. Clearly they don't. So the question is, what can the AG do about it? I mean, the AG, the only real teeth they have is via these material irregularities, and even then, the accounting officers do not always respond to those as they should. So the question to the AG is, what steps could you potentially take that you've not already taken to try and get compliance from the different departments? From a treasury perspective, you know, I asked the question that clearly you indicate an oversight role. Now, if it's true, and I think it is, that we are not winning the battle against this kind of irregular expenditure, which, as you know, raises red flags about potential corruption. If you're not winning the battle, then I would put it to you that your oversight is not working. And so I asked the question, it's not just officials in Treasury that need to provide oversight, it's also the executive. You know, I look to the politicians and I say, why are you not doing the oversight? The response normally is, well, we actually are doing oversight. If that is true, why is it not working? There clearly is an issue here, and we're not getting to the nub of the problem. You refer to quick wins. the presenter from the Treasury, you know, we can't use the word quick when you see that many of these things go back 5, 6, 7 years, where irregular expenditure was identified, raises alarm bells about corruption, and then everybody sits back and nobody deals with it. Which just brings me to my last point, Chair. And that is that in the event that we don't make progress in terms of dealing with this, and clearly we've tried, AG has tried, it seems the Treasury has tried, and we have failed. I honestly think that we should look to the law to determine what the possibilities are of legal censure on the accounting officers, senior management, in terms of these things not being done in terms of the law. You know, I think it would concentrate the minds of these people if you took a test case and laid a charge against one of them who has abdicated their responsibility. I think that would send a very clear message, and that is a question I'm hoping to resolve as we go through these discussions. To what extent is it possible to lay a charge in terms of the current regulations, legislation against an AI for not processing this kind of expenditure? That is the question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Fuchs. Member Kaba.
Thank you, Chair. My question is directed to Melissa. How does the AG's office ensure that its audit findings are acted upon and that recommendations are implemented, especially ongoing or recurring findings? I think she mentioned on slide 3 that if auditors do not respond, they enforce material irregularity process and consequence management for accounting officers. But if she can maybe explain that in detail for clarity's sake. And my second question is, how does the AG's office ensure that audit findings are communicated effectively and they are accessible to the public? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kaba. Member Masai. I'm going to take a couple of questions and then I'll take a second and third round, okay? So I'm going to take 3 questions. Member Masai.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and let me welcome the presentations. I think maybe I want to address to both the Auditor General and Treasury on capacity building, you know, of maybe Treasury should be able to assist there, of the officials, you know, who are supporting MPAC committees. Whether do you prioritize that or not? And is it something that is standardized throughout all the municipalities? It's part of your schedule. I'm saying this because as a former speaker of one of the districts, my observation is that although the function or the role of that committee would reside in the Speaker's office, it is an independent one. But when you are one person that is able to go through some of these reports, you know, before meetings and all that, you will see that you have officials that are not that capacitated in terms of the reports, the quality of reports that they are submitting, where they also cut and paste. On a yearly basis, you can see that this report is cut and paste from the previous ones. And whether do you go and look at the quality assurance of those reports and are able to question them or at least assist them and capacitate those ones. So maybe I'm trying to get to whether do you have a framework or that you will give to these municipalities to be able to improve on that. And secondly, on the observation for me would have been also, you know, the MPAC committee themselves would have to be guided by those very same officials on questions because they do the research and be able to guide them and support them on the questions. But it's the same questions year in, year out. And it means they also rely on being very safe so that the municipality does not, is not found to have been aired on certain things. So I just think for me, quality assurance and making sure that there is improvement, and whether are you able to question that when you do your auditing, and also in giving capacity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Masai. I'm going to request that Treasury and Auditor General, please, if you would like to, if you could, please respond to the questions. Colleagues, can I also just indicate that the AG and all those who are doing presentations are not here as part of our scrutiny. We are here to ask them questions, and we're not holding them accountable. We're asking questions here for clarity and for us to be able to be enlightened, if I may put it that way, because sometimes we tend to overstep our bounds and perhaps you start feeling that you are being interrogated here. Furthermore, all of you who are here have been invited for you to participate. So if you have questions, please, or statements to make, please do so. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If Treasury is fine, I'll go first. With regards to the first question, what steps can the AG take to ensure they implement and address the findings? I think it's very important, Chair, and I'm sure on other platforms I've also made reference to the accountability ecosystem, and I'm really trying to almost emphasize all the role players involved. The AG is an assurance provider, the external auditors, so we do come at a point where the financial year has ended, and we would then audit the financial reports and performance reports, and obviously compliance to legislation that we've scoped in. We would then issue findings to the accounting officer, and as part of our process in issuing those findings and issuing the audit report, we then also engage the executive authority, which is the MEC in this case. On the MFMA side, it would be the mayor, to obviously share what we've found, the findings, the recommendations, root causes, and what needs to be done. I think what happens after that is very critical and important, and that's where the executive authority, being the MEC or mayor, then implements their function as the executive authority holding the accounting officer or authority accountable, and ensuring that they've got an action plan to implement recommendations, because the accounting officer obviously reports to the executive authority. And then similarly for the executive authority, there's an oversight process that takes place. Being the councils that sit, be it the Scopas that would sit, be it the portfolio committees that would sit thereafter. And each of those oversight committees also have a function of holding the executive authority accountable for what has emanated from an audit process and how they plan to implement those, issuing the necessary resolutions to implement. We then come, and then obviously as part of management's process, they've got internal audit that's also an assurance provider, and they're there throughout the year to obviously test controls and ensure that they function, issue recommendations, etc. So in terms of ensuring that what emanates from an audit process to the next audit cycle, there's a lot of accountability processes that takes place from an oversight perspective. And it's important that all role players, like I emphasized earlier, then implements or basically does what they need to do in terms of their functions and roles to ensure that the executive authority and accounting officer does what they need to do. The AG doesn't necessarily have power over the accounting officer. We just have the power to issue findings in terms of an external audit. With the additional powers being the material irregularity process, which is basically the identification of non-compliances that have resulted in material financial losses, harm to the public, harm to an institution, fraud, etc. It's a process of us determining whether there is indeed a material irregularity as defined as per the regulations that were approved by our oversight body, and if so, issue or at least get the accounting officer's commitment to implement certain actions to address it. By the time we've issued a material irregularity, it tells you that certain other role players have not necessarily done what they were supposed to do as required by the different acts and legislation and rules, etc. So that's why I said earlier on, it is a reactive approach, but also us trying to ensure that the accounting officer is indeed addressing or attending to certain things that we consider material enough that's causing harm to public or has resulted in significant losses for the state. And that's really our role. Will we ever get, or can we enforce implementation of audit recommendations? Not necessarily, because our mandate is audit, but we do empower the other role players that have those powers to hold accountable, to hold the executive authority accountable and even the accounting officer accountable. We do empower those bodies with information, with insights from our audits, and then also in terms of recommendations and root causes that we've observed on the ground. And that is why we're also on this culture shift strategy, because we know we can't do it on our own because of the role we have and what we've been mandated with. But the activation of the accountability ecosystem for all role players to do what they're supposed to do in line with the powers that's been given to them. That's what we're trying to do in order to improve culture within the environments. Are we seeing some improvements? Especially on the PFMA side, you can pick up some improvements. On the MFMA side, it's a bit slower. So you do find that recommendations are being implemented, infrastructure projects, especially delayed ones, are being completed, or you find that the ones that have been abandoned are being started again to ensure that there is completion. So you do pick up on some pockets of improvement, pockets of excellence, but obviously there are areas that still need to be attended to, and that's obviously what we share. So the accountability ecosystem and those role plays is very critical in ensuring that we get the accounting officer and the executive authority to do what they're supposed to do. Then, how does the AG ensure AG findings are I think that also responds to how AG findings are acted on. We give the recommendations, obviously, and like I say, we then share those findings and root causes with anyone else that has the power to ensure those findings are acted upon to avoid it recurring in the next financial year. With regards to sharing findings with the public, the one document that is a public document is the audit report. That's what gets put into the annual report and then tabled at legislature. Anything else that is shared with management is shared in the management report. And that's a report that is issued to management. We obviously have said to the Scopa committee and even MPACS in this case, that where an oversight committee does require the management reports, there is a request that gets put through to the Auditor General, and we have to process that request accordingly, and then based on the outcome of the process, we then would share the reports. And that has also been a process that we've recently been implemented, particularly with Scopa. But the management report or all other findings that are not findings that end up in the audit report are not public findings. Only what's tabled at legislature becomes a public document. Capacity building, I'll leave for the Treasury to respond to, because I suppose from the coordination side of things, they would be best to respond to that. As much as the AG doesn't have a capacitation responsibility, we do make ourselves available to share knowledge and what the AG is about, but also what's expected from certain oversight functions from a training and workshop perspective, induction processes that have recently or in the prior year taken place, obviously with the new administration coming in. But it's obviously to capacitate in line with the audit mandate, as far as the AG can capacitate. So I'll also leave Treasury to respond to that. But we are always available if requests are made for capacitation, but in line, obviously, with the audit mandate. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Melissa. Let me start with the first presentation or question on the issue of irregular expenditure. Why are we not winning as a treasury? Looking at our efforts, are they working? The first response that I want to give to the meeting chair, in terms of accountability and responsibility on how can you hold the accounting officer to do that. I think if you go straight to Section 38 of the PFMA, that will assist us as a committee to hold the accounting officers responsible, because they are responsible to ensure that there's proper financial systems, controls, risk management, budget management to deal with these issues. So the reason why we have irregular expenditure is because it didn't comply. So if they are dealing with that compliance, they will be able to deal with issues of irregular expenditure, and it will stop. What we have focused on as a treasury is to ensure that there is no continuity, there is no growth of irregular expenditure at the moment, while the departments are dealing with that. So our provincial supply chain is dealing with that matter from that angle to ensure that they deal with issues saying, how do we reduce it? How do we ensure that in the current years we don't see a big growth in the irregular expenditure? If I may just give you figures just to indicate when we are saying, are we winning or we're not winning? With the balance that Melissa indicated of 45 billion of opening balance, as a treasury, we only consider what has been given to us. For the current financial year that is ending now, I can indicate that about 97 billion or 97 million, that is the only amount that we have condoned in terms of what has been submitted to us. And we've got about 67 million of those that have been looked at, as well as returned to the departments. But what is more critical, Chair, is that 33.8 billion of that irregular expenditure have not come to provincial treasury. Meaning that the reason why they have not come to us, those processes that are indicated before in terms of determination test, investigation, implementation of recommendations, it means they have not been done. So hence Treasury have not even looked at about 34 billion of those irregular expenditure. So that's where the accounting officers should be focusing on, to say, let's investigate these matters, let's do the determination so that it can go through the process. So if that is not done, then these balances will reduce slightly over the years. So I think that's where the focus should be. In terms of Honorable Musai, the capacity building, especially at the municipal level, we do have a branch that is called Municipal Finance Management, headed by DDG Vedboy. And some of the things that is done in that branch is capacitation of the municipality, as well as having programs to ensure that there is support that is provided to the municipality. So that municipal support provides that function. What I will take back to the DDG and the branch is the issue of saying, even in the offices of the MPACS, the Speaker's office, those capacitation are required. Then that engagement need to happen so that it can be known what type of capacity that is required in there, because of course the whole unit that deal with capacitation and support of the municipalities. So definitely we'll look at that if we need to enhance the capacitation programs that we are running as a provincial treasury to support the municipalities. Thank you, Chair. I think those are the two questions that are remaining. The rest, Melissa dealt with them. Thank you.
I have the hand over there. And at the back, can I just see number 1? Anyone else? No questions? No. Number 2? Thank you. She was sharp there, and then
Th-
thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think I do have two questions, if I'm not mistaken. Chair, the first one, the AG has emphasized on the certificate of debt issued to the accounting officer. I'm just requesting that the AG maybe expatiate on that so that we know what is this tool. Maybe it will be of help and all that so that we understand it very clearly from the AG's perspective. Another issue, Chair, that I'm picking up is that the figures that the AG has given both for the PFMA and the MFMA respectively are not covering the previous financial years, because I understand that this UIFW that we are dealing with, it's accumulative in nature. I just want clarity into that. Is that only for the previous financial year, AG? Maybe the last question, it will be directed both to Scopa and the AG again. If not, if maybe National Treasury will also come in. On the 2017, I think there was a speaker, I don't know, it's Honorable, I did not hear clearly the first speaker who spoke under questions. He spoke about these things coming from, far from other financial years and accumulating to now. Now on the 2017/2018 financial year, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, there was an issue that was raised. Fortunately, there's MPACS. The issue of the Gauteng Department of Health, where over 900 million rand was spent on ghost workers. And we never had a report on that, whether there were people who were held responsible and that money was recovered. And if the AG has any idea in terms of that, can they maybe bring the House into confidence as to whether there were people who were held responsible, especially for such an amount amounting to close to R1 billion, whether it's still accumulating, it's not part of the amounts that you've mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2 was over here. Please go ahead.
No, thank you. Thank you. Am I audio? Okay. No, one. Bishop. Okay. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, I think that Councillor Musina just asked the same question, but however, to the AG, I want to know, particularly at municipal level, if you've got repetitive findings against the municipality, to what effect, if you see that there are no consequences, consequence management that is affected by the municipality, but to what extent do you go as AG's office to see to it that such doesn't occur? Why I say so particularly is that as a local government, we are highly regulated, and most of the funding that we rely on, it is funding that is projected from what the municipality will get. But you find that, like example, a repetitive finding that will say that you have under budgeted in terms of the overtime that you find from the municipality as a finding that is recurring, and the municipality does not come to deal with that issue. So what is it that you do or assist those municipalities as the AG's office? But to Treasury as well, I just want to find out, it's been years that this thing of the 30-day a payment to the service providers, particularly at the provincial level, it is an audit finding that is recurring as well for many years. So why don't you improve on this one? And what is, like I heard what you highlighted, but for me, it is a same story for every year because there's no improvement. And this leads to more corruption because those treasury officials and the financial personnel at the provincial level, they go to an extent of extorting money from the very same business people that they have to pay so that they get their payment, but they have to pay those officials. And it is a known thing that causes this 30-day period where people are not paid, service providers are not paid in time. I submit, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing the opportunity for asking questions. Also, maybe just to make a couple of comments from some of the questions that's been asked earlier. It is difficult to look at municipal performance and the function of Scopa on a provincial level. If you think about AGSA as an example, reporting a year, 2 years later on financials, it's too late. Where you've got Treasury that has oversight on a monthly and quarterly basis, but focuses more on assistance and capacitation and support. There's no real challenging. You know, we see in Gauteng, where I don't think we've got an excuse on capacitation because there should be sufficient skills and professional individuals to take up these roles. We cannot be reactive anymore. One has to be more proactive. We're seeing in Johannesburg today again an unfunded budget that's going to be passed, yet there's no action. And when we talk about referrals being indicated towards an accounting officer in a municipality, the mayor, and the province, the premier, municipalities don't fail overnight. These are the very people who the failure happens under. And then referring these findings to a council that needs to vote on accountability, we've seen how councils have been influenced, and that doesn't necessarily bear the fruit. Those are just a couple of comments, but on the point that's been raised on individual accountability, a municipal manager or an accounting officer should have the fiduciary duties to act. And I think maybe also something to consider, Chair, is how can Scopa play a role to assist AGSA on the findings and oversight and asking the difficult questions and attaching timelines to this? Because again, an accounting officer is there for 5 years and then they're gone. So that's very important, that needs to happen. One thing that is not mentioned, and we're talking about financial oversight, and our colleague from Treasury has mentioned that you can act on what you receive that's reported on. But what we don't see is the cost of service being audited, as an example. In City of Johannesburg, a pothole costs 1,200 Rand to plug by the city, but a private entity can do it at 350 Rand. So you could have fixed 3 or 4 potholes at the same cost. So I think one has to start benchmarking costs of service. Then adding to that, when we talk about Treasury guidelines, speaking about maintenance in municipalities, show me one municipality that's got sufficiently funded maintenance budget according to Treasury guidelines. It does not happen. Another point is, if you look at the KPIs of the accounting officer, a mayor and MPACS, I think, has oversight on that. Our municipal manager, as an example, in the City of Johannesburg, has a KPI of delivering equitable share of free basic services to 130,000 households. Treasury has allocated 7.2 billion Rand, which accommodates 1.1 million households. That municipal manager will be successful. A lot of people will suffer and never get those free basic services. and that municipal manager will get a bonus. And that is the very mayor that allocates that KPI. So what role does Scopa play, and AGSA and everyone, to audit and determine whether KPIs actually advance municipal service instead of just becomes a tick box exercise and set up accounting officer for success. And then just the last point, in core and non-mandated services, I think a lot of the municipalities and colleagues that serve in that space will potentially agree that the core basic service of municipalities is to provide water, electricity, roads, and your basic infrastructure. We see that some of these municipalities and the metros taking much more responsibility on provincial functions, yet they don't have the budget for that. So that means that the tariffs and revenue that you generate and the income, you have to split on areas that's not essential or not your core functions. And we see that municipalities get cash-strapped in that regard and fail to provide basic service. The last comment on Treasury guidelines, my understanding through the MFMA is that, as an example, an electricity tariff is cost reflective. It should be. That means that your bulk purchase, your paying of staff, your maintenance of that grid, delivering of the electricity and recovering that revenue needs to be in your tariff. Yet annually we start seeing new levies, connection levy, maintenance levy, all these additional levies, and one cannot help to ask, but isn't there duplication or triplication of tariffs and municipal revenues because it's not regulated properly or the oversight's failing and no one's being held to account? I think those are a couple of observations that can maybe result into feedback. Thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you. And you go.
Thanks, Chair. Let me welcome the presenters who has already given us a presentation. Mine is seeking an advice because the questions that I had have been answered. Looking into the issue of consequence management, what is it that would be the next step that needs to happen, particularly on the MPACS committees? One, where you find that there is no accountability. Two, where you find that questions are being sent to, for an example, to the municipal manager, but there is no response. Thirdly, on the issue of oversight from the committee of MPACS, recommendations be made to the council, resolutions be taken at the council, but there is no implementation. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chair. One must first acknowledge the crafters of the laws that are governing public institutions. They had good intentions, but they did not know that corrupt and criminal elements will work out a way around these legislations. I just want to ask, sitting next to the AG, you feel like we can just slip your questions than having to speak in a forum. But on the issue of material irregularity combined with wasteful, fruitless expenditure, I really want to find out from the AG, how do they define from their side value for money? Because people whom, after you have posted your findings, they come to MPACS. MPACS will assign investigations and bring recommendations to council. And the same, like the colleague said here, the same council is politically influenced, and many a times there is what I would always say, there is no political willingness to implement recommendations of council if they are sometimes against city managers, accounting officers. And yes, you did allude to the issues of outside bodies. Because of the political influence in council, you find that we are hamstrung to actually report to these bodies because we are relying on the same executive. And yeah, I think one of my concerns truly is that officials and city managers, accounting officers have worked out a way around it. Just to further motivate the issue, my problem with us trying to find value for money, we are taking our questions back to the officials who have cooked the bidding processes, and then ultimately we say, go and investigate, did we get value for money? And you to find that, how can you investigate a value for money on something that was done by a person or a company that is not qualified? That is why in many of our cities you'll find substandard work, because it was done by unprofessionals, it was done by people who don't care about quality because they have to go and grease up some official out there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before we go to the answers, please, I'd just like to shed light on the following. The 0.5% VAT increase that's proposed in the budget that was announced yesterday would raise an amount of 13.5 billion for this current year, and then for the next financial year, it's budget 25-26 will raise 29.8 billion. Collectively, that's 43.3 billion that is to be raised on a VAT, which hits all our pockets, and more specifically, the poorest of the poor. And just juxtapose that to 46 billion rand of wasteful, irregular, and wasteful expenditure in Gauteng for the last financial year. You know, if a person needs to just look at where's our spend going. Also, we may not have all the answers to the questions that have been posed here, but that's the very reason why we're having this get-together here. We are recording all these things so that we can also identify where the loopholes are and so on, and those questions that have been raised. That amplifies what we have already been picking up as a Scopa committee. And we need to look at where those loopholes are and how do we, from a public representative perspective, how do we then try and stop those loopholes? Because some of these are acts that have to be passed, but then it comes back to the issue of regulations and where do they fit in, and that deals more specifically with what the Auditor General was talking about, and also Treasury, in terms of supply chain management and the regulations that goes with it. And there's some speakers here who have indicated, for example, how do we, and I think you also spoke, how do we benchmark? Because at this moment, in terms of spend and the costing of a service that is being rendered, and at the meeting that we had last week with the Public Services Commission, there's a loophole there. There is, you know, a person can charge me 50 Rand for this bottle that will cost me maybe 8 Rand at Spa. But there is no regulation that says they have to go to a market related. And that is where it's loopholes, and how do we then curtail that type of thing? Because it is not illegal for a person then, a tender comes in for 100 Rand. We've seen toilet roll, for example, that's coming in at 100 Rand. That is irregular, or whatever you want to call it, or wasteful. But it does not make it unlawful because there is no regulation to it. And that's the loophole that we're trying to address at this particular meeting, and of course moving forward. So wherever we do have answers, if we can we please give it? If we don't, we'll say that we are grateful for this insight, and it is something that we'll need to be addressing. Okay. We're also about an hour behind on our schedule, and I'm the chairperson and I should be a timekeeper. I know that we went a little bit later, but this is something that touches us all as South Africans. And I'd like for us, for example, here, please not to look at time. We need to look at the quality of what we get out of this particular engagement here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime engagement, and I'd like for us to leave here having maybe not all the solutions, but for us to identify where those gaps are and how do we possibly address it as a collective. So thank you. I now leave over to those who'd like to, where you can perhaps give an answer, please do so. Thank you. And please remember that there is a working tea that's happening. Okay, so go get a cup of tea or something, and let's get back in here whilst others are talking, a working tea break. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. I'll cover the questions addressed to the AG. The first one on expanding on issuing a certificate of debt, just the process. So they basically, the material irregularity process basically has 4 to 5 steps in it, obviously depending on what gets done. So what would happen during an audit process is that you would, through your non-compliance scope or the compliance scope that you would audit and other parts of infrastructure auditing also, you would assess for material irregularities. If a material irregularity as defined in in the regulations is identified, the first step is to issue a material irregularity. That means you issue it to the accounting officer, letting them know what you've identified, and in some cases the estimated loss that's been made, in some cases the harm that's been identified. And the accounting officer has a number of days to respond to that. And the way they should respond to it is with actions that they either implement in or commit to implement to address the material irregularity. The accounting officer is then given time to implement those actions if the AG does conclude that there are appropriate actions that's addressing the irregularity identified. If we find that either the actions are not appropriate or with the actions that they've shared with us, those actions are not implemented within the time committed to, which we obviously do assess, we then move to the next step, and that's to issue recommendations in the audit report for that particular material irregularity with specific timelines. The accounting officer then needs to attend to those recommendations that are issued in terms of implementing specific actions that the AG has then issued to them. And if they fail to implement those recommendations by those timelines, you then move to what we call the remedial process. And part of the remedial process is if indeed the accounting officer, even in terms of the engagements that's held with the accounting officer, because that's what the regulations allow, and the actions that the accounting officer then commits to in terms of not implementing the recommendations that's been put in that audit report. Because sometimes you find that, for example, an accounting officer has maybe changed in an environment, or there are other circumstances that the AG needs to consider. The AG then moves to the last step, which is to issue a certificate of debt, and that is a certificate that says you need to then pay back a certain amount in terms of the estimated loss that's been identified, or that the accounting officer through their responses have confirmed is the financial loss for that material irregularity, obviously based on the evidence that's been shared with the Auditor General. So the certificate of debt, just to respond, is the last step in the process, and that's when an accounting officer needs to actually pay back what's been lost. Yeah. So they don't go through a disciplinary process of trying to find the officials who are responsible, but it then falls on the accounting officer. That's the last step of the process. With regards to UIFW, in terms of what we presented, we presented what was incurred in 23-24, and then the closing balance. We didn't present the figures for previous financial years before 23-24, just to provide clarity on that in terms of what was presented. Chair, I can't comment on the request with regards to the ghost employees and their health, because I don't, it obviously wasn't the purpose of this engagement, so we wouldn't have information with regards to that. If there is a request by Scopa to just submit it formally or any other oversight body for that specific matter, but I don't have any information with regards to that request. On the question if there are repetitive consequence management not taking place, repetitive findings, to what extent does the AG go? So if we've, just to make it more practical, if we've identified irregular expenditure or non-compliance that has resulted in irregular expenditure in 1 year, let's say 23-24, it is expected that within the next 12 months, the accounting officer starts investigating the matter to determine if anyone should be held responsible. If we come back the next year, what's expected from our side is to then assess whether consequence management processes have been implemented, and if not, we then need to raise a consequence management finding in line with the PFMA, because the accounting officer is required by the PFMA to implement certain actions. That's why in some audit reports you will find consequence management findings where investigations haven't been instituted for matters that have been raised. And that's the extent to which we go in terms of reporting it. It becomes a material reportable matter in the audit report if nothing has been done. And we obviously then elevate it to the higher levels so that also action can be, or those parties can be held accountable for instituting those investigations and holding officials accountable. I think with regards to the comments made by Outer, it's just to acknowledge the comments. They're all valid comments. And very similar to what I also indicated earlier on is proactiveness is key, and not a reactive approach. It's the only way we're going to try and fix all the wrongs that's within departments and municipalities. Chair, I won't respond to the impact processes and where there aren't any responses and what does one do. It obviously is more, I would say, for knowledge sharing. Then, how do we define value for money, noting material irregularities and fruitless and wasteful expenditure? I think from our side, Chair, it's really, from a procurement point of view, we obviously look at whether the processes, where the processes were complied with, including whether, in some cases, the lowest bid was considered, unless there is a valid deviation for such. But it doesn't take away that something could be overpriced. And that obviously requires a bit more of, I would say, forensic or performance audit. But where we do get our performance auditors involved, that has a bit of more expertise, is more the infrastructure projects. And that's where they look at the economical efficiency and effectiveness of transactions to ensure that there was value derived. Value also means getting the actual services that have been procured or getting the goods that have been procured. And when we identify irregular expenditure, we also ensure or do a follow-up to ensure that goods were received, and where goods were not received, obviously then moves into the material irregularity space. So you want to ensure that goods and services have been procured. Chair, I also agree with your point made on the VAT increase, the impact of it, and obviously to continuously look for leakages of funds, because that is a risk, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Mine are two short points. The first one is on the 30 days payment. It's safe to indicate that, Chair, in Provincial Treasury, we have implemented an online system of invoice submission. So there's no service provider that will walk into any office now and submit an invoice. And that eliminated that risk of somebody wanting to accept an invoice and wanting to extort some money from the service providers. However, Chair, indeed it is correct, the issue of 30 days payment, because with the implementation of e-invoicing, electronic submission of invoicing, it enables us to process invoices within seconds. But of course, it is linked with cash availability when you receive it from a provincial treasury. Yes, indeed, 30 days payment is still a risk that even indicated in my presentation. Mainly it's Department of Health that has been non-compliant in most of the time in this one, and there are processes that they are going to be undertaken to ensure that they deal with this area. So it's a problem that has been persisting for years. I agree. The last 2 points, Chair, just to indicate that what Melissa presented in terms of the opening balances, is cumulative. It includes the prior years in terms of the irregular expenditure. I think the rest of the points, I think we're noting them. It's worth going to look at the issue of saying, is there a double dipping in terms of looking at the rates? I think it's an exercise that is worth looking at, and the issue of the cost of the service. Definitely those are some of, I know this is an oversight committee, but at the administration level, with all these budget cuts, what we're starting to do as a provincial treasury is to look at the leakages. And these are some of the areas to say, are we getting the services at the amount that we are supposed to get the service? And those are the areas that we're starting to look at from provincial treasury to say that's where the money is as well, that we need to go and look at this thing. And it goes directly to the point that we just raised on the issue of how much do we get a price for a bottle of Coke, as an example. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we move over to the next presentation? That is the Public Services Commission.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Just one moment so that I open my presentation. Honorable Chair, honorable members, all the councillors who are present, and all stakeholders present here, all protocol observed. Our presentation as the Public Service Commission will touch on the role of the PSC in enhancing accountability and oversight. My presentation outline will touch a bit on the mandate of the PSC, reporting and accountability, and our areas of oversight, and what support role do we give to the legislature. And then I will highlight the areas of concern as the PSC. Our mandate as the Public Service Commission is that we oversee the public service. We derive this mandate from Chapter 10 of the Constitution, and our powers and functions are derived from the Constitution in terms of Section 196(4), which is we promote the constitutional values and principles. We also conduct investigations. We do monitoring and evaluation. We also give directions and advice in the interest of maintaining efficient public administration. The constitutional values in terms of Section 195, the one that brings us here today is the one that talks to public administration must be accountable. And this is one of the value that in terms of this value, public official must account for their activities. They must provide information about their decisions. They must be able to justify through their decisions and respond. I won't touch mostly on all the constitutional values, but as the Public Service Commission, we are advocating for a professional high standard of professional ethics in public service. In terms of our reporting and accountability, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, we, as the PSC, we will flag the issues of governance and accountability, and we will report those to the provincial legislature, as well to various committees that must hold the executive accountable. The executive are expected to implement the PSC recommendations and findings as well as directions. Our role in a little bit detail is that we are independent and we account to the National Assembly. We also account to the provincial legislature. When we observe in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, I wanted to say, can we move the slide, but it's sorted. We look in terms of the Constitution, we can see a clear doctrine of separation of power, wherein we have got the legislature who develop the law, executive who must implement and develop policies. We also have the judiciary who must interpret these laws. So this is to ensure that in government we don't have one component that is having absolute power. So as the Commission, we are independent, we are neutral. We oversee the Public Service Commission, the Public Service Department, all national and provincial component. And we are mandated or given this responsibility by the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which is the supreme law of our land. We are the only Chapter 10 institution. We also derive this from the Public Service Act, the Labor Relations Act, and the Public Service Regulations. And in terms of our areas of oversight, we do financial disclosure framework. We deal with the promotion of the code of conduct, grievances. We also do public administration investigation, as well as promoting the constitutional values. Our areas of oversight, it's wide, but in summary, we look at the organization of the public service, being the structural arrangement of departments, also look at the administration, being all policies and procedure, policy framework, accountability mechanism. In terms of personnel, we look at recruitment, transfer, and promotion, so that we ensure that these policies and procedures complies to the constitutional values and principles that we must promote as the Commission throughout the public service. When we do support the legislature in terms of investigations, we investigate, and then in terms of the Constitution, we are to report once in terms of our findings, any recommendations and any directions that we have made, Chair. We do compile what we call the state of the public service in Gauteng Province, and we do research and inspections in various service delivery sites. These are some of the outputs that, as the Commission, we feel that the various portfolio committees and standing committees can utilize to perform their oversight functions. In this report, as the Commission, we are advocating for the respect of the rule of law. We are advocating for integrity and ethical leadership, Chair. We also advocate for good governance and efficient uses of public resources. We also advocating for responsiveness in people's needs when we go to these service delivery sites. Accountability, this principle of accountability, Chairperson, it's embodied in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, wherein when we look at Section 195F, it explicitly indicates that public administration must be accountable. Section 92, subsection 2, and Section 133, it also says the executive is accountable to legislature, national and provincial government. So the PSC, like the other Chapter 9 institution, it's independent and account to the legislature. We provide the evaluation in terms of the extent to which values and principles must be complied with, meaning the legislature is supposed to use the reports from the Commission to hold all this executive accountable in compliance with the constitutional values and principles. When we, these reports, how they must be processed, the primary goal of the PSC is that we provide report to various committees in the GPL to empower the MPL with well-vested research in holding executive accountable. It is worth to note, Chair, that over the years we have raised various areas of concern in our report on the state of the public service in Gauteng since 2014 to 2023. We have also done various service delivery inspections and various researches. In terms of ensuring that we strengthen collaboration, Chair, and enhance cooperation with other Chapter 9 institutions, we have entered into various memorandum of understanding with the public protector to ensure that we enable all the parties to exchange information and collaborate on cases and investigation. Where we see that we have received the matter that is not within our jurisdiction, we do a referral to the Public Service Protector if it is within their jurisdiction, vice versa to the PP when they receive matters that fall within the purview of the PSC, they refer to us. So we've strengthened collaborations in that area. Auditor General, we have also entered into a memorandum of understanding. The main aim here was to share best practices relating to audit of performance information. Chair, I want to refer this committee to the speech that was done by the Honorable Minister of DPSA when it was specific in terms of the oversight bodies. And I quote, indicated as such that oversight bodies such as the Office of the Public Protector, the Parliament, Chapter 9 and 10 institution, and other ombudsman offices embody the principle of accountability and ethical leadership. Oversight bodies and institutions supporting democracy as we move further are not just mere abstractions, they are engines to drive the hope and aspiration of millions of South Africa who rely on their effectiveness for basic service, economic empowerment and social justice, which shows that the government of the day, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, is taking these issues of oversight body in a very serious light. Our area of concern, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, it's in terms of leadership. Through our investigations and all our observations, we have noted that at the level of executive and heads of department, there is some fluidity in terms of a relationship which paralyzes service delivery to the citizens and loss of institutional memories terms of maintenance of high standard of professional ethics, there is lack of accountability, poor governance, and lack of consequence management when people has been found violating various ethical issues. In terms of recruitment and selections, majority of appointments are not based on meritocracy across critical level, and there is also overreach by executive. In terms of the management of grievances, which is one of the responsibility to investigate grievances by the Commission and make appropriate recommendations. We are noting that there is failure to resolve grievances within the time frame, and this affects the well-being of employees and overall performance of their duties. And in turn, the employee become disgruntled in Gauteng because a productive employee is a happy employee. We are noting a level of unfair treatment in Gauteng departments, which is very prevalent type of grievances that the Commission is receiving, Honorable Chair. So in area of leadership, the committee must note that as the Public Service Commission, we have developed the guide for executive authorities after observing the tensions which arise because of the political administrative interface. And this guide, we have inducted all the MSCs on it. The objective of the guide was to ensure that from the onset, Chair, they are clear in terms of their roles as stipulated in the legislations. We have also noted that this interface is a very complex one because it's scrutinized by organized labor and various parties. So the role are very clear, stipulated in the section 92 and 133 of the Constitution. In terms of service delivery challenges, we must indicate that through our service delivery inspection, we have visited departments of education, health, roads and transport, DLT center, and we have noted that there is a need in improving the infrastructure on various service delivery sites. This is also one of the critical issues that the government is looking at. The recent visit by the President was also looking at these issues in Gauteng. In terms of ethical management and labor relations, we have developed also a guide and conducted various presentations on the issues of unlawful instructions, after noting that the majority of complaints reported regarding to unlawful instructions that are given by this executive. Of note, which is concerning to the PSC, is the victimization of these complainants, as well as the number of high grievances reported, which is unfair treatment. This picture that I'm looking at, can we move in terms of the presentation? Yeah, the picture that we're looking at, it depicts the number of grievances that has been reported by Gauteng Provincial Departments, as they have got a role to ensure that grievance management is monitored in the department, a report on a 6-monthly basis to the Commission, so that the Commission can analyze and develop its intervention. The picture there depicts an increasing graphs as they started on 1,178 for 2021, 2022, 2023, they increase And then 2023, 2024, they are also increasing to 1,390. It shows that there is a serious problem in terms of area of treating of employees in the departments. And of important to note, which is a challenge to the PSC, it's unfair treatment which contributes to the highest number of grievances, being 526, followed by filling of post where we are noting irregularities in recruitment and selection. In terms of resolutions, as we move towards conclusion, we are noting that the number of grievances resolved amount, can we move to the next slide, amount to 858, which is just 61% in terms of resolution, 609 which amount to 71% were resolved within the time frame. We are not quite happy in terms of the resolution as the Commission within the time frame, because we are aiming at 85%. In terms of the resolution outside, we are noting 29%, which amount to 249. And in conclusion, Chair, as the Commission, we are hoping that these presentations has provided the committee with a high-level insight in terms of the PSC mandate and how it must be executed to assist the GPL to ensure that effective oversight in Gauteng province. And we are urging this committee to effectively use the reports that are tabled to the GPL to ensure that we improve accountability and governance. The PSC report that is on the state of the public service in Gauteng, it's a very useful report that will be able to determine or assess the state of the province in each department in respect of human resource management. You will be able to look there in the report and see which departments are complying in terms of issues of recruitment, in terms of organizational structures, in terms of employment of people with disabilities. You will have a chapter that deal with issues of grievances. You will have a chapter that deal with in terms of vacancy rate, as well as financial disclosures and people who are conducting business with the state. So as the committee, as the PSC, we are committed to provide various committees with well-researched product in order to ensure that they conduct their oversight. As I conclude, Chair, just to move to the next slide to show you in terms of our PSC commissioners. The first 5 are for national office, and the rest are for the province. Provinces. We only have 1 vacancy in Northwest. In Gauteng, we are headed by Commissioner Vusimuzi Mavuso, who could not be with us today. He was in Cape Town. He's in Cape Town. He was attending other issues of the Commission. And in terms of the support structure, we are headed by the DG. And then as we move to the last slide, which shows in terms of how do you refer all the matters to the Commission. In terms of complaint, we do have a complaint management email. In terms of grievances, we also have a grievance management email. And that is my presentation, Honorable Chair. I want to thank this committee as well as honorable members for inviting us to say that it is within the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa that says other organ of the state must support the Commission in order to ensure its independence. I thank you.
Thank you so much. for that presentation. Can we move over to the Public Protector?
Good afternoon. It's afternoon now. Honorable Chair, honorable members, and all stakeholders, all protocols observed. I am Khulile Mtiki. I'm here on behalf of the Public Protector and the Gauteng Provincial Representative, who is Vusimuzi Dlamini. I would like to start by giving out an overview about the founding provisions of and the role of the Public Protector. The Public Protector is established in terms of Section 181 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa in order to strengthen constitutional democracy. The Public Protector has a power as regulated by national legislation to investigate any conduct in state affairs or in public administration in any sphere of government that is alleged or suspected to be improper or to result in any impropriety or prejudice, report on that conduct and take appropriate remedial action. The Public Protector has additional powers and function as prescribed by the national legislation. One of the core pieces of legislation in this regard is the Public Protector Act. Hey, there's an echo. Could it be me? The Public Protector Act, which empowers the Public Protector to investigate issues of undue delays in the delivery of public services, unfair, capricious and discourteous behavior, abuse of power, abuse of state resources, dishonesty, improper dealings in respect of public money, and improper enrichment. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide. So this is just to inform you how you can lodge a complaint with the Public Protector. You can do it anonymously. You can come to the Public Protector, who will take your complaint at the door. You can just send an email to registration2@publicprotect.org. We will take it and assess it to see if it is within our mandate. So anyone can come to the Public Protector and lodge a complaint. Does not have to be a victim. So there's also complaints against the Executive Members Ethics Act. That one is lodged only by a member of provincial legislature in this province. If it's against the MEC or it's going to be against the Premier. So that one, it can only be raised by MPLs, and then we can do it in terms of EMEA, which it will take 30 days to finalize. But if it does not take 30 days, we will report to the Premier and the President that we cannot finalize it within that time. Yeah. Individuals can come, groups, organizations, political parties can come. We also have something called an own initiative investigation. We can say something in the newspaper and decide to investigate that matter. We can hear about it. While we are going into town, we can see that there are potholes. We are also allowed to investigate that. We also have systemic issues. We call it the systemic investigations. Those are the investigations that usually it's about large group of people. I think if you've heard, we had in the past panel van investigations where taxis were converted into panel vans. What panel vans were converted into taxis, and they were carrying passengers for reward. We made a finding against the DOT and other stakeholders in that matter. We also have, I think here now, what we are doing, our systemic investigation is we are doing food poisoning, the food poisoning matter. We are also doing the Delmo, Putfontein. There's a Delmo Putfontein matter where you can see that only toilets have been built. And you know, over 6 years, people were supposed to have houses, but it's only toilets over 6 years. Okay, but we'll get there. There are others that we are investigating. We just did GPV, and we're also doing maintenance. It's a national project. Food poisoning and GPV and maintenance is a national project. It's against the OG. We can go to another slide. So the power protector looks at, in its investigation, we look at what happened, what should have happened, if there's a discrepancy that constitutes maladministration, and then we make a finding. And then after that, we say, what is the remedy? How can we remedy the situation of the maladministration, if there is any, in that one? So can we move to the next slide? So the question regarding what happened is resolved through a factual inquiry, relying on the evidence provided by the parties and independently sourced during the investigation. The inquiry regarding what should have happened focuses on the law or rules that regulate the standard that should have been met by the organs of the state. The inquiry regarding the remedy or remedial action seeks to explore the option for redressing the consequences of improper conduct and maladministration. We can move to the next slide. This slide is that it's about our powers. Also, we can refer a matter to a state organ. We've been referring matters to SAPS, some to the PSC, especially appointments. If you are dealing with an appointment that is governed by the Public Service Act, I think your first call, you're supposed to, in terms of the law and their constitutional mandate, supposed to take it to the Public Service Commission. But we refer matters to the NPA, to all other state bodies, in order for us to assist us. And there are other bodies like the COJ Ombudsman. We do refer matters there also to them, because they've got a body that is dealing with some of these service delivery matters. And in our investigation, before we finalize it, like if you can look at most of our investigation, in our remedial action, we do refer matters to those bodies like SAPS. People are asking, why are you not investigating crime or fraud? We cannot investigate fraud because it's a crime, but we can refer it to DPCI, to the SAPS. So as I said before, we are dealing with, but we also do systemic investigation by the power protector. I think I went into detail with it, by the systemic investigation focuses on structural administrative deficiencies whose impact transcends the experience of individual complaints. And the intention of this investigation is to address issues affecting larger groups and in so doing make a such broader impact which appropriate remedial action. Experience has indicated that once systemic root causes and processes failures have been discovered and cured, the influx of complaints lodged with the PPSA from various complaints about the same or similar issues are reduced substantially. As I was talking, I was saying before, we did the panel van investigation, and I don't think there are any panel vans now that have been converted, because I think there's NLA, National Land Act, that has been promulgated. I think they've changed, but there must be no panel van that can ferry people for reward. And then the maintenance, I think the maintenance investigation is that our people are not paying maintenance, and then there's a problem with DOJ, and so we're trying to assist there also, that people, men and women, can be able to access the court, and this could be speedily resolved when a person has got a maintenance issue. So let's go to the other one. So this was the one that I was talking about the EMIA. In the province, as I said, it's only the MPLs who can lodge an EMIA against an MEC and the Premier. So this one, the power protector must investigate and submit her report to the President or Premier, as the case may be, within 30 days. The power protector has to report it if timeframes cannot be met. The period of 30 days is difficult to meet due to the internal capacity constraint of the power protector. Yes, it's also, and then also getting response from individual involved. So we can go to the next one. So the binding effect of the power protector remedial action. So this case is just saying that the public protector's remedial action is binding. If there is a report of the power protector with remedial action, if you do not agree with that remedial action, you are welcome to take it to court in order for you to remedy, if you are not in agreement with it. But until that you interdict it, the certain department that is implicated must be able to have effected the remedial action until it is interdicted or until it is set aside by the court of law. So can we go to the next one? So these are the trends and nature of complaints in the Gauteng province. As I've said before, our biggest problem now as the power protector is the incomplete or delayed or abandoned infrastructure project. As I was saying, we've got issues in the VAL, like there's a COVID-19 hospital there. I think it has been built since 2020. It's not been complete yet, but we think that money has been spent. We also have a taxi rank, I think also there in the VAL. Because I'm saying the VAL because I heard that there's someone from Imfulin here. Yeah. And then there are also old age infrastructure that has been built. We don't know why it's not occupied, the power protector, but it seems as if it was never occupied. The old age places are in, what is this place? In Sharpeville and Gauteng. As I said also before, we also have problems in the Delmo area in Putfontein, where there are only toilets that have been built. And then it's been years now, people are coming to the power protector office every day asking for progress, but when are we getting houses? Because there are toilets, we do not have answers, because we depend on the department to give us the answers and the municipalities. We also have complaints of irregular procurement of service providers, irregular appointment of officials, failure to implement recommendations of forensic reports. Some reports, I think there is a Kukras report we've been trying to get the department to implement. I think that report came in 2020, it's 2025 now. We are still waiting. They have not implemented the remedial, the findings and the recommendation of the report. So that is partly, well, that's what we also need assistance from Scopa or in all these forensic reports. Why are they not implemented if they are there? Because there's money that has been used to, to make them. And this one, the power protector and my Gauteng Provincial Representative said I must emphasize this undue delay to allocate an RDP house. We've got thousands of these. I think today we're going to have when I come here, maybe there are 50 people who gonna be at our door about this undue delay to allocate a house. And the Department of Human Settlement is like 2 streets in front of us, or 3 streets. And we're wondering, but why are people coming to our office, but there is a department? I'm just talking generally now, there are departments. Are there no service desks in these departments that are going to deal with service delivery issues, like as I said, like the COJ? Because it cannot be easy to come to the pub protector. Why is it not easy to come to go to the Department of Human Settlements? Because all what our people need, they just need a response to tell them that this matter is receiving attention. We know that you are number whatever in the line. This is as far as you can. This is what we can do for you. But our people, they are not getting responses from this department. So they, not human settlements alone. I'm just talking generally. Most of the departments. So they come to the pub protector and say, we are not getting responses. Now we have to go across the road and ask, but why is this person not getting a response? But the person could have just walked across the road if they had a service delivery desk. But mostly in municipalities also, that's why we've got lots of complaints against the municipality. Because I think there must be a service desk that deals with the service delivery issues, that at least it can go through to the municipal manager or the HOD if a person is not satisfied. We also have an undue delay to submit pensions documents. We've got lots of those. And then we've got incorrect billing on water and electricity. Mostly it's municipality. It's COJ, Ekulureni, Marafong, Mfuleni. Mostly we've got, those are the, Mokhale City. Most of our complaints come from those areas about this undue delay, this incorrect billing. So we have to be a middleman and ask the municipality about why they incorrectly billed someone. But as I said, the city of Ekulureni and COJ, at least we've signed an MOU with them. They are assisting in order to respond to people timeously when they can. And then the city of Joburg Ombudsman is also assisting, because it's an ombudsman. It's like their service delivery desk. Although there are lots of complaints in the COJ, but at least they are assisting. And then we've got a problem of undue delay in dealing with stormwater drainage system, undue delay to repair leaking sewer pipe. Those ones also are coming all the way from the valley area. And here in Soweto, there's a place called Kliptown, Ward 19. What I think is Freedom Charter section. Those people, they are saying whenever it rains, they get floods. It's one of the biggest problems that the pub protector is facing, because that thing has been happening since 2000, I think 2012. They've been complaining, no one has been assisting them. They are saying that they are living in squalor, there are no roads. They even showed us where they take electricity. They are saying we do not have stands, so we take electricity from there. And if the department will come and turn it off, we'll close the roads. They need electricity, they need housing. When it's rain, it floods. They are saying there are no roads. There are many problems. There are no schools around the area. That's what they are saying. There are no hospital, healthcare centers. There's no place for them to go. What is this thing? Pollution. Sanitation services. They don't know what to do. It's been there. They've been having. It's a big problem. I think also Scopa can assist us to ask about what is happening in that place called Kliptown. It's a Freedom Charter, Ward 19. The other one is failure to provide feedback to complainants and community members. I think I've gone through this one. But the department failed to give feedback to complainants and community members. And they come to us because there's no service desk. And when a person is being told something by a state organ, they are told by mouth, say, your house is not ready. Go. They are not, the state officials do not want to write down to a person. You say, this is the status of your matter. They like to say it by mouth, and then the power protector has to go and engage with that department so that we write to them on their behalf, which is very unfair the power of the power protector. Thank you so much. Let's go to another one. Last year in 2024, November 26, we signed an MOU with the GPL, with the speaker. The power protector signed the MOU in Maibuye Primary School. It's one of the places that the GPL has assisted the power protector in order to get the school running. Now the children are at school at least because they were living in containers. So in that MOU, it did show our rules about how are we going to assist each other. But the public protector's investigation powers, I think I've gone through it, but through its investigative media, the public protector is competent to investigate allegations of impropriety, maladministration, prejudice, unlawful enrichment, corruption involving public money, to report and to take remedial action where adverse findings were made. At the conclusion of each investigation, the report of the public protector is furnished to affected parties, including the Speaker of the Provincial Legislature. And then the oversight powers of Scopa, how can they assist us? You know, the Scopa may assist us or collaborate with the public protector to ensure implementation of the public protector's remedial action by the departments and the municipalities using the following: direct any person, provincial institution to report to it regarding compliance with the public protector's remedial action, receive implementation plan from the departments and Gauteng Copter on municipalities, and indicating progress on implementation of the public protector's remedial action or representation from any interested party or institution. So it can also assist us there, but as we have a MOU with Scopa, I think we will also provide Scopa with our reports after we've released them, so that they can assist us to make sure that our remedial actions are implemented when the heads of departments come. So we've got also a relationship with the Auditor General and the Public Service Commission, and we have to determine the areas of collaboration to avoid duplication of efforts. We have engaged a lot with AGSA. There's a matter of Marafong. Marafong is full of sinkholes, so it's assisting us on the matters of sinkholes, meaning they are doing, but there are sinkholes, but they are saying that there is something that has been done. So we're asking AG what that have been done, because those sinkholes also have been there for such a long time. And then I think Copter has spent a lot of money, but there are still sinkholes today. So the AG is assisting us in many matters, even the Delmo issue is going to assist us in the valley issues, the ones that I've talked about. We're going to ask for their assistance because they are good in that thing called value for money, and maybe they've got an audit report, because those matters happened many years ago and they are still not, the infrastructure is still delayed. So we enter into MOUs and specify key areas of cooperation and duties and parties, consult one another and share information on policies, best practices insofar as they relate to each other's responsibilities. And then there's this one where we collaborate on outreach activities to raise awareness and build trust with stakeholders. We urge, if also Scopa wants to go on outreach, they can also invite the pub protector who are willing. If you want to go to communities at your cost, we can come there. Thank you. All right, I think that is the end. We are thankful for being asked to present this as the pub protector, and I hope that Scopa can assist us to achieve our deliverables. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that presentation. You know, a person wasn't, well, I'll speak for myself, I wasn't aware of all the complaints that gets forwarded to you. I mean, for example, issue of electricity accounts, etc. And that speaks to the fact that the general public out there looks to you for protection. When they are not finding satisfaction, they're at the coalface. So, yeah, in terms of the collaboration, and the colleague just noted to me, memorandum of understanding, yes, we do. But that's through the Speaker's office, and we have your latest recommendations that you, should I say, your report that you sent to us as Scopa to deal with certain issues in the legislature, which we will be deliberating upon as a committee. And just for the sake, I think from OTA's side, you asked a question about collaboration with the Auditor General, etc. What do we do? Yes, we do. In a sense, become the teeth in terms of oversight and holding accountable any departments, etc. We take the Auditor General's report, the Public Services Commission, the Treasury, from Treasury, as well as from the Public Protector. And through the committee process, we then deliberate upon it and we ask questions, etc. And if need be, we cause a hearing. And it is then resolutions that gets passed in the legislature that holds those departments to account. And we then have a resolution tracking system that ensures nothing slips through the cracks. And I think to a large extent, someone asked that question from MPAC. At MPAC, many of them don't have the resolution tracking, and hence it falls through the crack. But as we can see, there's hope. There's hope, and I've been around the block for a long time. But there's hope, and that is what gives us that the strides that we are making, as small as what they may seem, are indeed huge if I compare it to 20 years ago. So we are on the right track. It's just about expediting, closing those loopholes, and making sure that things happen. In terms of our program, we would be doing question and answers now, but I'd like for us to perhaps please just now deal with the issue with MPAC, and then we are able to deal with questions and answers and able to wrap up. And I think we're still within time. Thank you so much. Rand West, are you prepared? Thank you. Are you able to do it? Yeah.
Thank you once again, Honorable Chair, honorable members, and as requested, the theme that we are going to deal with is a theme that we've requested: strengthening municipal oversight through collaboration. On our introduction, Chair, we made an emphasis on that the municipalities play a vital role in delivering services, but effective oversight is crucial to ensuring accountability, transparency, and efficiency. By working together, government, civil society, private sector, and communities, we can build stronger, more accountable municipalities. I think, Chair, that's very critical, especially when it comes to civil society. As MPAC in the Rand West City, whenever we have meetings we open them to the public so that we bring trust within that. Next slide. The importance of the municipal oversight. Municipal oversight ensures that public resources are used efficiently and services are delivered effectively. It helps to, 1, detect and prevent corruption and mismanagement, 2, improve service delivery to citizens, 3, foster accountability and trust between government and the people. However, oversight challenges such as lack of capacity, political interference, and inadequate public participation weaken municipal governance. Chair, I must emphasize on some of the points that we've identified, that we've flighted there. 1, it's on the issue of service delivery. I think the AG, we welcome the addition on what the AG responsibility is going to be, because I believe that they are now auditing not only like they were doing before, but also on the issues of service delivery. That's where the problem lies. Hence, you know, we are not, as municipalities, trusted by our communities. And I think the AG will do a very important work there. Next slide. The role of collaboration strengthening oversight. Collaboration among different stakeholders can enhance oversight in the following ways. Government and institution, strengthening the role of municipal councils, audit committees, and independent bodies like the AGSA to ensure compliance with regulations. Community and civil society have emphasized on that, encouraging active citizenship participation in budget processes, monitoring service delivery, and reporting irregularities. Platforms like ward committees and community meetings can enhance transparency on that particular issue. Private sector and academia, supporting municipalities through capacity building initiatives, research, and technological innovations that improve governance and financial management. Intergovernmental IGR cooperation, strengthening partnership between provincial and national government and to ensure better coordination on oversight. The issue that I will just want to emphasize, because, and we must also thank SALGA, COCT, and national, provincial treasury, national treasury in that particular issue, is that some of the councillors who are playing oversight, some of us, you know, we had an opportunity to attend a capacitating class for the whole year with Wits University, and I believe, you know, we must congratulate them because most of them, they graduated very well, and that's the kind of capacity that is certificated that we need, so that when these councillors are no longer councillors, they are able to work in the bodies that have been doing presentations, you know, carry on with this work so that we can maintain that particular institutional memory carried forward. Then, Chair, maybe before the conclusion, practical steps to improve collaboration. To strengthen municipal oversight through collaboration, we must, 1, promote open government initiatives such as online transparency portals. There's one, I think, the Gauteng with regard to housing. People can now, like, I think it's an initiative of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, where you can just enter your ID on the housing portal, check whether your house has been approved and all that. We welcome that such initiatives, you know, they make life very easy for our people. 2, strengthen participatory governance by making oversight processes more accessible to the public. 3, enhance training and capacity building for municipal officials and oversight bodies. And lastly, encourage multi-stakeholder forums where different interest groups or formations can work together to improve accountability. Maybe before conclusion, Chair, it is very imperative because some of the presenters here have touched on the issue of UIFW. As Rentwest City, what we have done as MPAC, we've developed what we call the strategy for the reduction of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Now, like I was asking the AG whether the figures that the AG was giving, I think she made it clear, Melissa from the AG, that it was only for the previous financial year. But ours in municipalities, the problem, if you look at the newspapers, you find that, you know, it's billions of rands. It's because of it has been accumulating. But we've managed, Chair, and we even got an award, you know, to that regard. We managed to cut it by 60%, especially on the the previous UIFW. But the problem is what the other speaker, I don't remember it was who, on why people are repeating, because this thing, every time the AG is picking them up, I think the issue of consequence management must come very strong, not only from the AG side, because from our side, even as MPAC on our recommendations, when we do our oversight report, when we do our UIFW report, whoever is responsible, because it seems as if, these people are on holiday, especially the SCM officials. They do as they please, because you'll sit with them, show them that this is how it should be done. You should respect the regulations and the interlinking legislations that govern supply chain management, but they will ignore you. And one thing, because of, I always say, municipalities or municipal governance, it's over-regulated. We come as fire brigades, as municipal public accounts committees, and I'll explain, Chair, just in short, because I'm concluding. Why I'm saying we are coming at the end as fire brigades, the law does not require that we sit down during the tendering process, so that we pick these things at an early stage, so that we can, avoid them. We come when damage has already been done. So we're supposed to investigate and all that. And the problem is with officials. Sometimes they are very smart, because they know they'll be there, councillors will be there for 5 years and all that. Sometimes you find that we have a problem when you investigate of missing portfolio of evidence, POEs. That's the problem, where the problem lies. These officials will make sure that we don't get these contracts, we don't get these tenders, so that we can thoroughly investigate and come up with recommendations. So it's a serious problem for municipal governance, and it should be, tackled with the vigor that it deserves. In conclusion, strengthening municipal oversight is not the responsibility of one entity alone. Collaboration between government, civil society, the private sector, and communities is essential to building accountable, transparent, and efficient municipalities. By working together, we can ensure that municipalities serve the people effectively and uphold good governance principles. Very, very important. Maybe, Chair, just in closing, because I've been, preaching this thing. Whether, if we really want to change what is happening in municipalities, eradicate corruption, make sure that all municipalities get clean audit, we must be prepared to go the extra mile. I know with regard to our municipality, for instance, I'm the first chairperson to have lasted so long, 2 terms. Why I'm saying that? The first chairperson was killed brutally, so the second one was bombed. He was also killed brutally. So it's a serious issue. We've also been raising this with Parliament when we went to Cape Town. We are raising it again with the legislature, because we always do. It's ironic that you'll find that in municipalities, the chief whip of the municipality is guarded, but a person who's investigating billions of rands, the chairperson of MPACS, I know Ekurhuleni, they've provided security for the chairperson, and I think the city of Joburg, they are doing that. But for us, as other MPACS, it's problematic. We are not safe. If you are to table a report that is damning to some people, I'm telling you, Chair, that they won't hesitate in making sure that you are eliminated. So those are some of the issues that we must take into consideration when some people say, no, some MPACS in other municipalities are not working. But we are prepared, Honorable Chair, to die with our boots on. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope we don't need to go to those lengths, but those are the challenges that we face. But as you correctly indicated, if we call ourselves responsible and we want to make a difference, sometimes it does perhaps put us in danger, as you've indicated. But yeah, just be careful out there, okay? Things, alles sal reg kom, as ons net reg is. Thank you. I know that Mfuleni and Chwana has indicated that they have a bit of a problem with us being unable to open up their presentations. But I'm going to request that them speak to it. Okay, can you open Swane? Okay, so we'll start with Swane, and then we'll move over to Mfuleni. Thank you. Tshwane here? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Godwin Ratikwani. I'm the MPACS chair in Tshwane. The presentation is flighted here before us. It will touch on the legislative background, the roles and responsibilities of the committee for in the municipality, the strengthening of the municipal oversight through collaboration and recommended collaborative efforts. The next slide, please. Is there anyone assisting with the slides? Right, thank you very much. So we have different, of course, various Section 79 committees in different municipalities, and these committees are established to, of course, hold the executive accountable, and the Municipal Structures Amendment Act makes it mandatory for the municipality to establish these committees, and part of them is Municipal Public Accounts Committee, which is MPACS, which I head, of course, in the city of Tshwane, but of course different other municipalities do have it. Next one, please. Now, oversight committees that plays critical role in municipality because it ensures that there is accountability in the use of resources in the municipality, and municipal entities are held accountable from time to time. Some of the key functions on oversight is on officials, including the executive mayor, his or her mayoral committee members. Now, part of the functions, of course, will be to ensure that the operations of the municipalities are transparent and that the resources are used efficiently, and that we also review, amongst others, the Auditor General reports or annual reports that will be coming, and then we, of course, investigate things such as your UIF&W, which is your unauthorized, regular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditures. Thank you. The collaborative efforts in conducting the oversight in municipalities is vital to strengthening the democracy and improving the service delivery and ensuring that there is accountability. This is to be achieved by fostering the shared understanding of the problems in different municipalities and solutions thereof. So various strategies will have to be implemented to ensure that the municipality is able to address issues of service delivery, and of course trying to hold executive accountable from time to time. If we can just go to the next one again. Then exchange of the experiences and best practices will see the municipalities making informed policy decisions that will ultimately result in more effective implementation of SDBIPs and reduction of corruption and maladministration in general. The recommendations are that the institutions such as SALGA and AGSA, Treasury, COCTA, Scopa should be more interactive with municipalities and committees in particular. MPACS strengthen oversight and activities in the municipality. There should be a coordinated benchmarking program to help municipalities to share their experiences and best practices. The culture of irregular expenditure of feedback between the intergovernmental oversight structures will also help improve the activities in different municipalities. In conclusion, the role, of course, of the oversight is led by MPAC, and in general, MPAC plays a critical role in the municipality. And I think, to echo the part of the sentiments of my colleague who was doing the presentation before me, is that, you know, new in this particular role, you realize that there is quite a lot of risk that you encounter. There are so many things that you find that you want to dig deeper into and deal with and address in different municipalities. However, it remains very difficult for any of us to do the job. And give you an example, I work with colleagues, you will call a report and you can be told as a chair or any MPAC person that wants to call any report and be told that this particular report should be withdrawn. And we all know the mafia that goes behind tendering systems and the kind of money that is involved. And of course, in South Africa, with the current stats, it's simple. Your life is cheaper. People are not going to lose their livelihoods because you want to just do your job. In fact, what then happens and what undermines this issue of accountability and holding people accountable is that you'll end up not investigating anything because you're fearing for your life. And even if you want to become honest, you become honest, but you'll just become a statistic at the end of the day. Because these are heavily influenced by politics, and over and above now, it's money and security threats. Now, if the government want to really have these oversight bodies to have some form of teeth, they need to give it the resources that it requires. In fact, you will have an MMC of social development and so on, having and being guarded, like the colleague was referring to here. And if you check the level of risk between the two personnel, you find that it's chalk and cheese. You can't compare the two. So we need to, I think, come and deal with this issue and address the issue of security first, so that we are able to perform and hold people accountable. Unless we enjoy conferences and so on, and discussing the matter, because we've raised this matter in all form of forums. I have been to Salga, I've raised the same issues. I've written to the chief whip in my municipality, the speaker, and so on. And Kokta is not the first time this matter has been spoken about, but there is absolutely nothing that we see. In fact, you will be told that no, they will do an assessment, security assessment, and they want to see the real risk. But I mean, with the kind of the statistics in South Africa in terms of crime, the time they see the risk or they try to investigate it, you would have already been removed and somebody else will be placed. And again, I believe that we should strongly consider if there is a government of or some form of a coalition, you should not have oversight that is voted upon by the same government that is in power. Because how can the same parties that are in power hold themselves accountable? And I know it complicates matters further when we deal with issues of independent candidates, because you don't know where to place them, whether they are now opposition or they are actually parties that are in government. But it is a very serious issue. We need to tweak this thing, because when does it end? The city of Johannesburg is rotten to the core. When do we get to sit and say now, this ends here, we now want to start seeing results going forward? Or are we going to sit in conferences and discuss this matter endlessly, just enjoying the salary? If we want to really make a difference, we have to start by addressing the fundamentals, and then the rest will be implemented. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, Mfuleni, are you ready? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and colleagues, for the platform that we are being afforded as the MPACS committee to participate on the strengthening of MPAC oversight. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as the chairperson of the Municipal Public Accounts Committee of the Enfuleni local municipality. Today, I wish to emphasize the role of collaboration in our local government, particularly coalition government, the importance of sustained political stability, and how these elements must converge to ensure effective service delivery. As we approach the 2026 local government elections, it is imperative that we focus on leaving a lasting legacy for our community. Colleagues, in remembrance of the oath that we took in the realm of local government, collaboration is not merely desirable, it is also essential. Our local government must embody the principles of unity and shared responsibility as entrenched in the Municipal Systems Act 32 of 2000 and the Municipal Finance Management Act 56 of 2003. These legislative frameworks underscore the importance of cooperative government, governance, and accountability to the communities we serve. As we work together across party lines, we must remain steadfast in our primary objective, enhancing the quality of life for all residents of our local municipalities. The synergy between our diverse political perspectives can foster innovative solutions, ensure transparency, and promote responsible fiscal management. Political stability is a cornerstone of effective governance. In recent times, our local municipalities, some of them particularly Enfuleni, has demonstrated resilience and a commitment to achieving a stable political climate. This stability is crucial not only for the functioning of our municipal structures, but also for fostering public trust and confidence in local government. However, sustained political stability must be matched by unwavering commitment to service delivery. It is not enough to maintain political stability environment, yet we are retaining 640 million back to Treasury. We must translate that stability into tangible outcomes for our community. This means prioritizing the needs of our residents, addressing service delivery challenges, and ensuring that municipal resources are utilized effectively and efficiently. Effective service delivery is the ultimate goal of our collaborative efforts. It is our duty to ensure that every resident in Enfuleni or local municipality has access to essential services such as clean water, sanitation, electricity, and adequate infrastructure. The work of MPAC is integral to this mission as we hold ourselves accountable for monitoring expenditures, overseeing projects, and ensuring that our decisions reflect the needs of our community. We must reinforce our oversight mechanism and use them as tools to uncover inefficiencies, address irregularities, and promote a culture of accountability. We can build a responsive and responsible government that truly serves the interest of our communities. As we look ahead to the local government elections 2026, we must remain mindful of the legacy we wish to leave behind. Our actions today will shape the future of our local government and lives of generations to come. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that our government model is not only effective, but also transformative. Let us commit to fostering an environment where collaboration thrives, political stability is sustained, and service delivery is prioritized. By doing so, we can create a legacy of excellence, integrity, and progress that will resonate long after our tenure. Chairperson, as we conclude, in conclusion, I urge each of all those that took oath to work together with a shared vision for their local municipalities. Let us uphold the values of accountability, transparency, and service excellence as we embark on this important journey. Together, we can strengthen MPACS oversight, ensure effective governance, and secure a brighter future for all our residents. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor. Colleagues, questions, remarks? The floor is open. Member Fox. Oh, Lesedi is also, sorry, just hold on. Is Lesedi also here? Lesedi? My apologies.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and members of the Gauteng Legislature. As the MPAC Chairperson of Lesedi, would perhaps just give a brief background. Perhaps we'll start with the introduction that the oversight institution are the bedrock of democracy, service delivery through supporting democratic principles as they drive the hope and aspiration of the committees and the entire country. Public institutions are entrusted with the duty to ensure that public resources serves the needs equitably, transparently, effectively, and efficiently to deepen democracy. A brief background, Chair, that as the Oversight Committee of Lesedi, we are a number of 7, a small committee, whereby 3 are the ANC, 2 DA, 1 FF, and 1 EFF, and I'm the chairperson, fully as alluded perhaps by the Council. And our terms of reference were approved by Council and have reviewed annually. We hope that, Chair, we will strengthen municipal oversight through the following collaborations: through SALGA, by that capacity building through training and workshops, i.e. consequence management; through COCTA, by capacity building through training, workshops, and providing support on the UIFW reduction; also support by providing service providers such as Bonagute to assist with UIF reductions; through Treasury, by providing training on dealing with annual reports and monitoring of action plans. As I conclude, Chair, through community participating by outreach program on roadshow, through district, by coordination of the functionality of MPAC within the district, through AGSA also by outlining critical areas of the findings that are required MPAC to pay attention on. Through audit committees to support and assist with monitoring and performance of the municipality, through disciplinary board to assist in enforcing consequence management through the recovery of funds, through law enforcement agencies where there is serious misconduct, MPAC may recommend to Council for assistance of law enforcement agencies. Thank you very much, Chair. However, I must also allude, as my former colleagues have alluded earlier, to say that we really need to be looked after as chairperson of MPACS, because we might be attacked. Sometimes whenever you have to do a report, you are scared because you don't know what will happen to you. So we really need to be looked after. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate it. Colleagues, I think that's it from the municipalities. Now open for questions, remarks. Member Fuchs.
Chair, thank you very much. You know, when I consider the assassination of Pepita Diakaran, and I listen to these councillors talk about the fact that they're under threat, not just their well-being, but their lives. You know, I just cannot help but wonder what the hell, where have we got to as a province and as a country? How are we ever going to fix things if we have this kind of a situation? And what's really even more concerning, Chair, is that based on what we've heard, that no one is reacting to this. They state that they are under threat, and nobody is taking any action. And I think maybe as the Scopa committee, we need to take this matter on and ensure that people hear the message and that steps are taken to protect the councillors. Having said that, Chair, we heard earlier on from the AG's representative that when it comes to enforcing compliance, their role is circumscribed by legislation. There's only so much they can do. They report the issues, and then it's up to the institutions to do the necessary oversight. And, you know, reference was made to the executive, to the senior officials, to Scopa and MPACS committees, and others who are actually then required to ensure that oversight is done and compliance is actually achieved. Now, I think it's true to say, Chair, not just because the AG said it, but we all experience that, is that the quality and result of oversight, both in province and in municipalities, is not nearly where it should be. And, you know, when we consider the reasons for that, I'm sure there are many, but it really is going to take an in-depth analysis to determine, you know, whether it's a lack of skill, it's a lack of finance, it's a lack of political will. Because we heard earlier on from the councillor here that there seems to be a lack of political will, and you keep on hitting the brick wall, no matter what you try to do. If we sit back and do nothing, I'm afraid we're on a hiding to nothing. We're going nowhere. We will become a failed province and a failed country. So the question is, quo vadis, what do we do about it, Chair? You know, to my mind, these individuals and bodies that are required to do oversight, besides being afraid, you know, for your well-being, do we have the skills? Do we know what it's going to take to confront these issues and to deal with them robustly? I'm not convinced, Chair. I would love to sit down with somebody who can explain in detail exactly what needs to be done to confront these issues robustly. Because I'm not sure that many of us have a clear view of that. Yeah? So, and I don't know to what extent one could even make this request of the AG, you know, to kind of empower us in such a way that we understand the law, we know what our powers are, and we do everything we can in order to change the situation. Because, you know, we continue on this basis, we're really on a hiding to nothing, Chair. So I really believe that Scopa does have a role to play in this. And, you know, I'm hoping that going forward, that we get together with COCTA. And I want to just make this last point, Chair. To my mind, COCTA has constitutional and legislative remedies in order to monitor local government, municipalities, and to provide assistance where needed. Okay? The question is, does it happen? I don't believe it happens. And I can tell you from my perspective, province does not have the resources to do that. They don't have the people with the knowledge, they don't have enough money. So that element of support for local government is just not there. We know that local government officials and politicians, you know, they get perianal contractions when they hear the province wants to come and have a look as to what's going on. And we understand that. You know, province may not interfere. We're supposed to be supporting you and we're not. So, Chair, all I'm suggesting here is that we possibly arrange a joint session with our colleagues from COCTA, and we look at what remedies they have, to what extent they're applying them to improve situations in councils, and potentially what we could do about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Fuchs. Any more questions, comments? Where is that? Member Masai?
Thank you very much. Let me thank all the presenters for their presentations and for giving us, you know, an eye into the work that you do. Chair, I'm a new student at the University of Western Cape, and I'm doing a postgraduate diploma in public law with a focus on local government. And I think it's a very good cause. In fact, I'm depositing it. Maybe as a Scopa, it's something that we need to encourage. All the councillors must actually do that course. It's something that will help us in the future. You know, looking at the Constitution, we are able to go through the Systems Act. We're able to look into the municipal powers and functions, you know. Now, I think what this is telling us also is we might be able to also look at how effective is the office of the Speaker. You know, is it able to achieve its purpose? Because remember, MPAC falls under that office. So I think it's important to look into that. But also, what came out also is us, maybe no, not us as such, but I mean, councillors or those that serve in this MPAC committees, to also make sure that they drive the motivation towards the budget that they have. But Chair, I think when we had a sitting the other day, I was brought into the response from the MEC of Economic Development, obviously, in responding to also questions under finance. And it comes out of this meeting is that the MPAC chairpersons are saying their lives are under threat. Now, maybe there is a way to move away from the chairpersons themselves or those committees themselves taking over the function of investigating. I think they are involving themselves in functions that they're not supposed to. They are an oversight committee. It means they must just have a budget where they're going to have people to come and investigate on sitting inquiries. Because when you have people that are sitting in inquiries, you've got people who have legal background, there's, you know, there's different people. I mean, for the economic department, especially the liquor board, has just released something where they want 5 members. And it's people that have experience in investigating corruption and fraud. But what they do is they will look at the documents and then they call people in to come and respond on things and they make recommendations. So it means if you have an inquiry, a committee of inquiry, that committee of inquiry will make a recommendation to the MPAC. And the MPAC must take it to council. So it becomes a collective recommendation and decisions will come from there. So that they don't put themselves at risk of being investigators and their lives, you know, are at stake. But also, I think it's important to also empower the public and have sessions. In as much as we also do and go to have public hearings, they must go and have sessions so where they educate the stakeholders so that they understand what is their function. And then I think we'll be able to move out of there. And I'm going to refer to my time when I was a speaker, because I was a councillor, so I understand the environment. We had an inquiry, and in that inquiry, we requested the MEC, because the MEC, based on the regulations as well, has certain powers to also initiate inquiries as well. So as a municipality, you write to the MEC and say, these are the things. Obviously, it must go to council. You are able to motivate for that. But the MEC is able to initiate a certain section, you know, in law that will make sure that the state attorney gets involved. So once the state attorney gets involved, they're the ones who will be able to do these investigations. But they must still come back to the council so that the council takes over. And then SALGA is also, you know, does get involved. I'm just saying that maybe as this committee, what we could do is we could also engage the state attorneys to find out, the Office of the State Attorneys, what is their role, what is it that municipality can invoke for them to be able to come in and assist, because there is a certain declaration that you can do. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much for that insight. Any further questions? Number one and number two. Councillor, you want to go first? You can go first, it's okay.
Okay, sorry, mine is a response. I don't know if it's a response.
Oh.
So is it appropriate that I, okay.
We'll wait for responses, I'll say,
Okay,
for
thank
response.
you. Cheers.
I think just to acknowledge and to appreciate the sincerity from the impact chairs, it's really nice to hear that everyone's got the public's best interest at heart. And I'm aware that the reform on local government, the white paper, is currently being looked at. Maybe some of these things can be raised there. And I want to encourage what my colleague just said previously. Sorry, ma'am, I don't know your name. I think it's very important to have these public engagements and representation. It's very, very important. It's difficult to even think that the public will not be on your side. And what we've realized from an outside point of view is when you are well organized, it's very difficult to actually take out an individual. And I think you need to consider that. Obviously, there's sensitive information and the framework of the law that you need to work within. But this is also encouraging because Public Protector, AGSA here, and Scopa, Gauteng, everyone's got different powers. So if there's a particular issue that needs to be investigated, surely one has to start fostering these partnerships and working together as a collective so that you don't feel alone, but that there's various avenues that can pursue the same objective. And I think that's very crucial. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, you wanted to respond to something?
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. I think to appreciate, of course, my apology. Just to appreciate the inputs and the questions, well, not much of questions, really, inputs. Look, I don't think we, maybe the input that came in relation to the chairs doing the investigation necessarily addressed the problem, Chair, because the thing here is that it's not that we are doing forensic investigation like, you know, police at a crime scene. All you do is to say, they report to you that, look, we believe that there is a corruption related to a certain tender. As an MPACS chair, then you call, or even a member of the committee, you will call a report. When you call a report, that alone, before you even start the work, brings the two options. Do you want to rather take the cheese or the bullet? Then you make a call from there. It's got nothing to do with you investigating, because the part where you start to hire professionals who are going to do the digging has not even came into light yet. So, and then now, from there you now have to question and scrutinize, ask questions in relation to that tender. Any question that you then ask will basically uncover answer or will highlight an area where people are uncomfortable with whatever that you're trying to do. And then you need then to go out and stand up to the speaker and say, Speaker, my report, or write the recommendations on that report to put it to council. That is your another involvement. Your other involvement, when the speaker says this matter is deferred and we are not going to entertain it, it's you again as the chair of the committee that must say, Speaker, this report is important. It must be looked into in this particular sitting of council. That is another involvement. So it doesn't matter. And the idea here is not to make the MPAC as a committee toothless and then say you've resolved the problem because you've removed the element of risk. The element of risk is not then surrender the entire thing. Then tell the police that they don't have to do this because their lives are at risk. Then tell anybody whose life is at risk that, they don't have to do it if their life is at risk. Then surrender the country. Then give it to the thugs and give it to anybody who's corrupt. There's no problem with that. The idea is not to make the committees toothless, but the idea should be how do you equip committees so that they can do what they need to do. So let's move away from it. Then is an issue here where you've got a municipality with 10 MMCs, and I gave you an example with the MMC who is responsible, for instance, social development. And then you say, let's do a security assessment, a fair security assessment in terms of the risks that come with the portfolios and responsibilities of the two. Can you justify that a certain MMC, for instance, is more at risk vis-a-vis someone who's investigating corruption? Can you fairly say that it is a rational decision that you are making? So the point here is not even about whether there is no resources or that. The resources are there. The reason why there is always case of corruption is because there is money, it gets stolen. But then every time when you want money for legitimate things, such as the security of the people that are supposed to do the job, then you are being told that there is no resources. So then if there are no resources, why then do we have cases of corruption and theft? Because there are resources. The only problem is that the prioritization of those resources is not going to where it needs to go. So I would just say that we are ready to work. We are raising this matter because we don't want to sit in these positions and become, just enjoy the salary, basically. Push the book and just act like we're working, and then the whole country goes to the docks. We are saying we are ready to work, but can you at least meet us halfway? And then the idea that blue lights, because people say, no, blue lights, they think that that is a status or it's a luxury or something like that. I don't think so. In fact, those things, they invade your privacy like you can't do anything. These security guards, they've been there with the municipality, with many executives. I don't feel comfortable sometimes with this thing because we have a way there, and you find that I'm like, guys, are you really sure that these people, they're keeping your information, your sensitive locations, your times? This is very invasive into your privacy, that thing of blue lights. But then it is essential when you compare it, your privacy being invaded versus a bullet in your skull. You have to now make a decision and say, which one can I compromise on? So let us do away with that, but let's address the issue. We are calling for help here now, today. I met with the SIU 2 days ago, trying to investigate the issues there in Rooival. They're giving us an update and so on. There's 2 proclamations in Tshwane. You know, it's very sensitive. You can't even say much. You can't do much. I mean, we are just speaking in general, just to avoid being in trouble. Because when you die, you are just one of those, just a statistic in South Africa. Can we at least get our matters addressed, and let's not make these committees more toothless, just so that we say we are saving people's lives. Because by doing so, you're going to hear that the building has collapsed, a certain tender in Hammanskraal has killed people because water has not been provided, yet there is money being spent. I mean, so many lives are going to be lost because you are trying to say, no, let's save the life of the chairperson of MPAC. I mean, if you compare that loss of life vis-a-vis other people or potential losses of life with this kind of shenanigans that are happening, that comes with corruption and wasteful expenditure, you will see that one life really doesn't matter much. So the idea here is let's equip and let's make sure that these things have teeth to bite if we want them to bite, so that we can see more proclamations, more arrests, more blacklistings. But we are not going to be sitting there and sacrifice our lives without any just cause or at least an indication that someone does care. Because even with those blue lights, they can still come to you, but at least it's some form of a deterrent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more comments? If there are not, please go ahead.
Very grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I'm not, I don't think, hopefully my comment is not long so that I keep everybody from wrapping up this very important meeting. I just want to make 3 comments. I don't know if when I got up, maybe I missed it, but I know Treasury hate zero-based budgeting, but it's one of those suggestions that I would really like, for example, a committee like Scopa, again, consider for municipalities, because I do think that it creates an opportunity to have better budgeting and keep the expenses under control. And the same goes for ring fencing. I also know that Treasury doesn't like ring fencing. We all pay sugar tax, but that's not ring fenced in order to assist with, for example, obesity, etc., in schools. But ring fencing, the income you receive from water and electricity, so that municipalities use the funds that they get for those 2 very important issues, that's ring fenced, and it can't be used for legacy projects or for salaries or anything to that effect. And then lastly, and I think if I hear the problems on local government level, this is maybe not first on the agenda, and I do have respect for people in council meetings that really fear for their lives. We just launched Parliameter in Parliament, which I think the idea is that Parliament becomes more transparent, so that there's more, so that there's more conversation, if you want to call it that, between Parliament and its functions and normal people on the street. Sometimes one has to wonder what people understand from the process in Parliament. And for example, one of the things that is currently part of Parliameter is the bill tracker. And what I want to, the seed that I want to plant in this committee is that it would also be lovely if one can expand that and do something on more a provincial level, that provincial legislatures become more transparent to the people so that they can understand the processes and have a one-stop shop where they can see. I love the fact that you, Chairperson, mentioned the fact that you have a tracker as to see and stuff doesn't fall on the ground, and I think it's something similar in order to show transparency to the people so that they can check where things are and et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a seed that I want to plant with the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll water and nurture that seed. That's a promise. Colleagues, thank you so much for your participation. I don't want to mention any organization or organ of state individually, lest I forget someone. But I think for some of us who are sitting here for the first time, to understand the challenges that we face broadly, it's really indeed an eye-awakener for us, or eye-opener for us. And I also understand your frustration, Member Fuchs. When a person looks at the mechanisms that are in place, the institutions that are in place, that should be lending itself towards ensuring that governance, per se, is held accountable and that it functions effectively. And I go to yourself as a public protector and see how you are overwhelmed with things that should have been sorted out somewhere else. it at least speaks to the fact that there is those institutions to deal with the challenges that we face. I think a bigger challenge is how do we utilize these institutions for us to be able to bring about the change that we all want. And I recall the Auditor General at the national level when she was asked the question, how do we deal with and how do you think we'd be able to change the mindset and get things going? Her response was one that was very simple. We need to just see those culprits in orange overalls in prison. There has to be accountability, and that comes up time and time and time again. The lack of accountability. The Public Services Commission, when we had our meeting last year, where they presented the findings together with the Auditor General, etc., one of the first things he says was that the appropriate action is not being taken where it should be happening, and therefore it gets escalated and sits on his desk or her desk to be able to deal with. And it is being recognized that accountability and consequent management has to go hand in glove. So I think from where I sit, we have a long way to go, but I'd like to say that we have come a long way. Having been in the system for so long, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. The thing is just how long is that tunnel? Because we don't have the latitude of time. You know, I like history. And history has taught me that it repeats itself if we don't curtail things or we don't learn from it. If people are hungry, they come to an uprising. And hunger could be a number of things. We come through a painful history where the hunger was for freedom. Democracy had risen in 1994. The thing is, are people really free? And when you look at the number of people who tonight will be going to bed without having something to eat today, never mind having eaten yesterday, it makes me worry. And I look at the youth who are unemployed, and I'm saying, what future do they have? That, quite frankly, is a remedy for a revolution that I wouldn't like to see in my lifetime or in my grandchildren's lifetime. So all of us sitting over here have a huge task ahead of us to try and make the system work. I've listened to my colleagues as MPACS chairs, and it's not the first time that I've heard this. We had a workshop that we ran as Scopa in the West Rand, and it came up there too, where public representatives are just treated like nothing. They have no authority because of, you talk about overregulation. I think there was a reason why that legislation was passed, but sometimes we need to revisit and we need to look at how do we change things that are not working. Because at the time when legislation was put into place, it was meant to address a particular issue. But we evolve and our democracy is evolving, and hence it comes back to us as public representatives. The officials don't write the acts and the laws, we do. What are we doing about changing those laws so that it addresses the issues and the challenges that we face today with an eye to the future? But I'd like to thank each and every one here for your participation. I leave here not disillusioned. To be honest with you, yes, I'm awakened to the challenges that we face, and indeed they are huge. But I also leave here being informed by people who want to make our country work. And as a committee, we've noted all these things, and we're going to have to grapple with it, members, as to what are we going to do as Scopa. Take into consideration the fact that there's separation of powers and there are three independent spheres of government. How do we work through it for us to be able to help each other? Because ultimately, national government can try to work, but the coalface is council, municipal. How do we get municipalities to work? And of course, provinces in between. But colleagues, thank you so much for your participation once more. Please let us go and have some lunch together, lest it be wasteful expenditure. And let us also just remember And I just mentioned to you that my business cards are finished and I don't want to ask the legislature to give to me, I'll do it myself. We have to start somewhere and it has to be with myself. So let us please just remember those who are less fortunate ourselves and those that we have pledged to serve. Let us keep them foremost in our minds. Thank you so much.